and welcome to episode 231 of Flix and a Six, where much like Ja Rule, we're always on time. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me forever and always, the man, the myth, the David to my Benji, Alessandro Biolsi. Al, how are you?
Welcome back, Anthony C. Been a minute.
Nice. Well done. On this week's episode, we've got Whisk Watch 2025, mostly Star Wars news, and a little tirade about West Wing, all before diving into our flick of the week, Real Pain, which I'm realizing now I did not put in my notes, which is where that pause was for a second. It's like, what movie did we do? But first, Al, what's on tap?
We are drinking an oldie but a goodie, hopefully. Which is to say, this beer's been kicking around for a while now. Well, we keep having these long breaks. So.
Mine's got chunks.
Mine does not. Mine came out pretty immaculately. It smelled great still, which, to be fair, this is 8.7% alcohol. It should age okay. Sorry, forgive me for the dogs. This is this is a Tin Barn Brewing joint. This is a Hop Splice. We've done a couple of these now on the show. It's a New England double IPA. As I said, it's 8.7% alcohol by volume.
Wait, when you say we've done a few of these before, you mean Tin Barn?
Yes, we've done.
I thought like Hop Splice was a thing that I didn't know about being a. Okay.
This is, I want to say, the third one we did. I think we did it was like an Alpha Queen or something like that, and then there was a Cranberry something or other, and this is.
Yes.
We've done a couple
something or other.
We've done a couple of different Cranberry ones. Go back in the archives; you can find it. It's in there. Unfiltered, sediments natural. There you go. Don't be worried.
They are.
Keep refrigerated, which I did. Drink fresh, which we did not.
We did not. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
It's been a very musical pod so far.
Oh no!
What?
Splice this 11/11/2021.
Yeah, no, it's old. Like I said,
it's up there.
So when I got this beer, though, so the thing is, that was like less than 2 weeks old because we went there for my birthday. It was November of 2021. I bought those beers, so it was like less than 2 weeks old when I bought the beer.
Wow,
not entirely my fault.
November of 2021. Wow.
Yeah.
Been a minute. All right. Nothing too crazy to note here. Can art, fine. Are those slugs? Unclear. Are they cells? They're probably cells on account of the splice.
Yeah, I think
they're 100% hop cells. I take it back. The can art's got it going on.
Plus some plaid for some reason.
Went on a real journey there. The plaid, it actually looks like, you know what that looks like? It almost seems like it's misprinted. Like I don't know. It's not. I don't think it actually is. Yeah. It just seems that way. Like
no, now that I remember it, there's definitely been plaid on the other ones too.
Okay. Well, maybe the tin barn, tin cup, golf, plaid hat.
1930s.
We got there.
Scotland.
Because every time we're gonna call it a stroke. Because every time you do it, you feel like you're dying.
Is that from Tin Cup?
And you're gonna do this one time? No, 18 fucking died. Cheers.
Hang on. There we go. Still smells delightful.
That's nice. That, I dare say, would be appropriate to call juicy.
Yeah, no, that's juicy.
And they didn't.
I mean, it's a New England.
Yeah, but they didn't flaunt it. So. They didn't come out there swinging.
The juice was restrained.
The juice was definitely not loose. That's nice though. It's kind of bright. It's lighter on the mouthfeel than the rest of that robust flavor seems to indicate. Like it's like big flavor up front, but it's feels like kind of airy.
Yes, but you do get that residual sweetness, which is, again, why this actually does hold up pretty well to being on the older side. We may lose a little bit of the punch of that aroma on the nose, but this is almost, the body of this is almost like a triple, where, even though it's like a lighter grain that they're using, there's got some of that candy sugar in there, or at least something akin to it, anyway. Because it's got some pretty good residual sweetness on there, which is how you get that higher alcohol, as we've talked about before.
Right.
But it's also why you can age the beer like this longer, because those flavors get more complex the longer they sit around. And the alcohol content is what allows it to do that and still come out on the other side.
Tin Barn. Good on you with the Hop Splice.
It's a good brewery. I've only been there the one time. It's probably a little more than half an hour from here. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's one of those places where it's like 10 minutes away from civilization, and it's like just not, I don't ever go out that way for anything.
Sure.
But I like the beer. And I've never seen it in a store around here, unfortunately, but I have to make a pilgrimage at some point.
Yeah. TB.
Maybe one of those biannual trips we talked about. Maybe we could, because it's probably actually not that far, really, from the other place we talked about going to.
Okay.
Aspire. It's probably not that. It's probably like 20 minutes away from there.
I long for you.
It's probably like 20 minutes away from there, if I had to guess. So,
cool.
Might be something we could do in one day.
down. I was actually thinking about our, what is it called? Hudson Valley Brew Festival. What was it?
Yeah, Hudson Valley Craft Beer Festival.
When was that?
September.
It feels like forever ago. But I'm calling. I would pre-buy my ticket now. That's how excited I am for that again. And this time I will eat breakfast.
Probably for the best.
And not eat all that food.
I mean, you seem to enjoy all that food.
Food was so good. You know what it was? I was good up until the 14 pounds of pasta that were put on it.
It was really an obscene amount of pasta.
Yeah, it was good up until that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that again. This is nice. Where are you at vis-a-vis the Thuckle?
This is a
Trace Thuckle?
This is a 3, yeah.
This
is 3 Thuckles.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel it. I'm feeling it. I'm gonna give it another sip, and we're gonna get this party started.
Just gonna get back into this real quick.
Gonna get back into this. And I mean, really just like kind of hitting the ground running back into our old ways. Completely didn't write down the time that we started the beer. Let's get into the news and nuggets. I'll figure it out when I edit. It's fine.
Like a glove.
Oh man, I saw a clip of, I want to say, Timothy Oliphant on Conan.
Okay,
I think talking about watching the Jim Carrey Andy Kaufman documentary.
Yeah, was it something Moon, Man in the Moon?
Yeah, and he's like clearly like annoyed by the concept of actors being method. And he was like, it's just, he's like, I actually watched that documentary in character, and my character hated it. I think I would have liked it.
That's pretty funny.
That was well done. Yeah. So news. Where do you want to start off with the news?
You tell me. We got a couple of different Star Wars.
I'll tell you where we start off. My West Wing tirade.
Okay.
This
is a news, not a consumption.
It's a both.
Okay.
As you know, I was deep into West Wing.
Mm-hmm.
Deep.
Did it get yanked off your service?
It got yanked off of the service that it aired on, which doesn't make any sense to me. I thought I had an understanding of how this was going to work. We had an unspoken agreement, HBO. It
was like this unspoken thing.
And I unspoken had to download it because they screwed me.
Wait,
so I'm still watching it.
You were watching it on HBO?
Yeah.
That's not where it aired. You sure?
What was it on?
Wasn't it on like NBC?
Was it?
That was a network show.
Oh, I didn't know that. For some reason, I thought it was HBO. Maybe I just thought it was HBO because that's where I was watching it.
Or because that's where the newsroom was? Is that why you're thinking it?
Maybe.
I didn't watch it, but I was like pretty sure that was a network show.
Oh, okay. Maybe you're right. And maybe my frustration is not warranted.
Did you check Peacock? Do you have Peacock? Do you have the cock?
I do. It's there. I didn't look. But I did.
I suspect if you investigate the cock, you'll find it.
Hang on a second. No, you know what? I didn't, because I used an app that friend of the show, producer of the show, cousin Mike, hi Mike, told me about. Just Watch. I'm doing this live. Pulling it up. Okay. Just Watch.
Also, sometimes these things just cycle. Like there's like a weird. Sometimes there's those weird like rights issues where like
it doesn't cycle. It's my subscription price.
Well, I don't think they baked in the prices. Anthony's not going to get the West Wing. He's not going to be as willing to pay.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's back on Max.
I told you.
You know why it's back on Max? Because of the outcry.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Is there news items in Just Watch? I wasn't familiar with that.
I didn't mean to start the show, but it started. That was not my intention.
I didn't mean to start the show. I didn't mean to watch like the whole episode. I
right.
didn't mean to get back into the binge.
Either way, we're back on it. But I was irate, and you know what? I'm even more annoyed now that it's back. You can't win with me. HBO.
No, but these streaming things. Don't get me wrong. It's annoying, but these streaming things have gone on a lot in the past, where like sometimes there's like a weird rights thing where like it's off for like a week or like 3 weeks and then it's back and it's like it'll be there for the next 5 years. Like,
yeah, I definitely this is definitely my misunderstanding, thinking that it was an HBO show, which I will give it a little bit. I'm okay with that. The fact that it cycled because it wasn't an HBO show.
Yeah.
But like in my mind, it was like The Sopranos was taken off of HBO, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Well, because like there are shows that have happened that originally broadcast on NBC.
Okay.
Which is why I'm surprised it's not on the cock, but it's
right, which I do have access to, and it is not. On
well, I mean, if you don't have access to the cock, I don't know who it is.
It's mostly for show. What is that from?
I don't remember, but you're right. There's definitely been a line like that in probably more than one show and movie for sure.
It's official. My cock is just for show. That's the line.
Yes, no, that is definitely a line for something. I don't remember what it was now.
All right, hang on. Let's see. West Wing, you are on. No birds here.
This is one of those weird things too, like in the past where like sometimes like a show would be like pitched to some studio or whatever and then like they wouldn't pick it up and then some other broadcast network would pick it up. Like that's what happened that's why all of the Taylor Sheridan shows are on Paramount except for Yellowstone. Because the original Yellowstone, Paramount was like not totally sold on it, so they like sold the streaming rights to NBC because I think it's on Peacock. And the first season was such a smash hit, they greenlit the next season. They started greenlighting the other shows that they wanted Sheridan to do. But they're like, we're not making the same mistake. Nothing else that you ever make ever again will not be on Paramount. So every other show he's ever made is on Paramount except for the flagship.
Right. I remember that being a thing. Like, yeah. My dad trying to ask me why he can't watch it, and I was like, I truly don't know.
Well, I know we've talked about it before. Yeah, because I had a similar conversation too with. I don't even think it was my parents. I think they just had like DVR'd it, so like it was all like on TV for them to watch.
Sure.
Like, Dominic wanted to get into it, like after like the second or third season or something like that. Like it was at that point like 1883 or whatever had already been out, so he watched that on Paramount because that was like the first of any of those streamers that we had. My dad like wanted that streamer because he liked that show and liked the other shows. And 1883 started as a Paramount exclusive. So, like, he wanted to, like, Paramount Plus exclusive. So he wanted to watch that. So we got it. And my dad's like, oh, here, if you want to watch it, watch it. Dominic's like, why can't I find Yellowstone? I was like, that's a great question. And I, like, looked it up. And I found out about this backstory. I was like, this is insane. But, like, this is what happened.
This is what it is. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I added that to my list for consumption because I did watch that. As just a side note, I don't know if it's that I'm getting older and my retention is not there anymore, or I just don't have time for things that aren't fantastic to stick around in my mind. But I enjoyed Yellowstone. I enjoyed the act of watching Yellowstone. And I remember, definitely needed a recap. Oh, I'm not sure. Did you watch it?
No. I mean, I've seen.
Okay. Doesn't matter. The season, the final season comes back and it starts off, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna need a recap. it's like we're 5 minutes in, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then we watched the recap, and I was like, okay, no, I do remember all of those things, and those things would have like popped back into my head. What's going on? And they were doing a thing where they're like starting at the end and then coming back and then going through, and I was like, oh, this was not after that long of a break. Not the execution pattern. That's not what you want to do.
I more on this later, but I actively read multiple recaps and watched a recap for Severance because I thought it was 2 years since the last season. It was 3 years since the last season.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch it right away. I probably watched like 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like sitting there thinking about it. I was like, I remember a bunch of things from the show.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm churning through my memories and trying to remember things about the show, it's like someone opened up a can of worms and like it's just like none of it's connected chronologically in my head. Like it was like, where does that piece go? I feel like it goes with this piece is over here, and I cannot find the connective tissue.
What's going on here? What the fuck happened to that guy's head?
Well, yeah, I was like, I remember like a bunch of things and I don't remember like the context. I'm like, guy with the baby goat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was the context for that?
None.
Well, yes and no. Well, like
context now,
like,
I guess, but still none.
My point was even like I forgot how it is that they ended up finding it.
Mm.
Like I don't even remember like what like the impetus for them stumbling on him was.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple other things. Whatever, we can talk about it more later.
More on that
consumption, but just like I actively sought out as much refresh as I could to try and see if it would like jar the things back into place in my brain.
Mm. Yeah. Well, that was really it for my news with West Wing. We went on since we've left. It has both been removed and returned to HBO. But on to let's do Star Wars news.
Okay, let's go chronologically because I had a new from. God damn it again! I had a new
Ads?
From. Yeah.
Classic.
But like I already cleared the ad from this site on this article and like it's back again. I had a new from the last time we were supposed to record in early November. And that one still holds true. There's not anything of substantial note to add to it, but it's a pretty big thing in and of itself. So in November, according to Deadline and all the supporting stuff since then, Lucasfilm taps Simon Kinberg to write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy.
What was that name?
Simon Kinberg?
Simon Kinberg.
Yeah, it's a name. You should vaguely remember it.
Yeah. Tell me why.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going back to the article here. He will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. This will comprise episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga that began with George Lucas. So actually, I'm going to refresh because now I remember that was disputed. It's not supposed to be 10 through 12. But it is a trilogy that will obviously canonically be there. And I do believe it's been confirmed it's supposed to be sometime after the events of episode 9. It's just not going to be, I don't think, the numbered episodes next. Hang on a second. Sorry. Kinberg previously worked with Lucasfilm in co-creating with Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck the Emmy-nominated animated series Star Wars Rebels that ran for 4 seasons. He was also a consultant on episode 7, The Force Awakens, the J.J. Abrams directed film that revived the franchise. He's also been heavily involved in other franchises as writer and or producer. That includes a decade spent on the X-Men films and the Logan spin-off film that starred Hugh Jackman and was directed by James Mangold.
What did he do on those X-Men films?
He was a writer and or producer. He was also the producer of the first 2 Deadpool films. He produced The Martian and has scripted such films as Mr. and Mrs. Smith and co-wrote the first Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law.
That one was a fun one.
He also produced Murder on the Orient Express.
All right.
So he's one of those guys where he's had great successes and things that you don't feel great about as well.
Sure.
So like it's one of those things where like if the material's good, it's going to be good,
Okay. Right.
That's the gist of what I've gotten out of his work. He was involved. He's worked with Mangold. Mangold's doing one of those. He's doing that old Ancient Jedi movie or whatever.
Sure.
He did Logan with him. I remember when I think of Simon Kinberg, I think of X-Men. I know he was involved in multiple X-Men movies.
Okay.
Some of them good, some of them bad. So, but like it's one of those things where it's like a producer. Like I don't know exactly what he's doing in those roles.
Sure.
I don't know what he's doing with those movies. I don't know what level of.
But he's directing.
He's writing, or at least co-writing and directing a trilogy.
Okay, interesting. All right. Okay, so
pretty seismic news.
At the very least, Star Wars movie news.
Yeah.
Too early.
That's not the only one. The biggest one is
Director of Dark Phoenix?
Yeah, which that's probably not so great, but whatever.
No.
I never saw that one, but I know it didn't do well.
I saw it on the plane.
Oh, that's right. You wrote a plane review of that one, didn't you?
In-flight review.
I don't have it now because it's not as important. It's also slightly more nebulous over the course of time. But like the Ray Disney Ridley movie is moving forward. They have a director. I know they changed writers, but like even a couple of months ago, they were still pretty actively talking about that movie. Like they are slowly churning the wheels, but they are turning towards making that movie, which I believe is supposed to be kicking off a trilogy of episodes 10 through 12. So This exists separately from that. And then, if you want to dovetail this into the next new, and then we can just discuss it all in one wrap-up if you want. This is more recent. This was from a few weeks ago. This was on the Hollywood Reporter from January 21st. Star Wars shocker. Ryan Gosling in talks to star in a Sean Levy movie. This would send the project into hyperdrive after 2 years of development and make it the next Star Wars movie to go into production. I do remember Levy being one of the people mentioned a while ago as being one of these people who's doing a movie, and there's been a bunch of people who've been hired and then fired and or just like project shuttered, whatever. But there are still, actually at the end of the other story, there was something here at the end here. Where did it say the other ones that were still? Okay, sorry. This is back to the Kinberg one real quick. Alongside percolating Star Wars project with James Mangold, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, that's the Daisy Ridley one, Taika Waititi, and Donald Glover and his brother are also been working on a movie as well. So those movies are all still there. And I've even heard back and forth about the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie coming back as well. Okay. But anyway, this is back to the Sean Levy one. Ryan Gosling's Head to the Galaxy Far, Far Away. 3-time Oscar nominee is in negotiations to topline the Star Wars feature project that will be directed by Deadpool and Wolverine filmmaker Sean Levy. Details on any Star Wars project are harder to acquire than plans for an orbital planet killer, and this one's no exception. He has been developing his Star Wars feature since 2022, and with Jonathan Tropper, who collaborated with Levy on films such as This Is Where I Leave You and The Adam Project. They've been working on the script for over a year. He is also producing the movie alongside, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, etc., so on.
Sure.
It's unclear when Levy's project's set. The stories have run the gamut of hundreds of years, detailing the goings-on of Galactic Republic turned dictatorship turned rebellion, etc., so on. Unclear if this would concern Jedis and their enemy, the Sith. It is, however, to be unconnected to the so-called Skywalker saga. So this would, again, be one of those ones more like a Solo type of movie, it seems like, in the sense of, like, obviously in service to the greater canon, but not directly impacting the storyline of the main saga. It's meant to be a standalone movie. Sources say Gosling development is a late-in-the-game move for Levy's movie schedule. The filmmaker was eyeing to direct a boy band movie set up at Paramount, which would have reunited him with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. But Gosling's interest and involvement suddenly shifted the Star Wars project into hyperspace. If a deal makes the project would continue to fly like the Millennium Falcon, there's a lot of puns in here.
All right.
There is one little bit of news here. I actually don't remember hearing this detail. It finishes that thought by saying cameras potentially could start rolling this fall. The Mandalorian and Grogu wrapped in mid-December and will be released on May 22nd, 2026. I did not recall hearing that.
That feels like a weird tidbit that got released at the wrong time in this story.
I'm sure it happened and it was right before Christmas and I just missed it, but I don't recall seeing that principal photography wrapped on the Mandalorian.
So we're still over a year out on that.
Which that's been pretty common timeline for these Star Wars movies, where it's like over a year turnaround for like post like filming wrap to when the release comes out
for the show.
For the movies,
you said the Mandalorian
and Grogu. That's a movie that comes.
Oh, next. That's a movie.
Yes.
Oh,
that's a feature film that will be released theatrically. That's the next thing. That's the only actual movie that's officially had a camera rolling on it.
I love that show so much.
Yeah, they. I don't know. I don't remember if they said what or why they pivoted off of doing a season versus going straight to a movie. But from what I recall, unless they've changed this somewhere and kind of didn't fully go on like describing this, I believe the whole point of that movie is it's supposed to be one of the big events that loops all of this Mandalorian storytelling together.
Okay.
The Ahsoka, the Boba Fett, the skeleton
so
crew.
it's gonna be more of a big deal.
It's gonna be they pitched that initially as the Avengers style team up movie.
So it's Star Wars TV the movie.
Yeah, Star Wars the TV the movie.
Got it. Now that you just make a game based on it,
and they are still doing they are still doing the other stuff as well. I mean, I actually remember hearing something a few weeks ago about Ahsoka season 2. So like, they are still moving on some of those storylines.
All right, so stuff to still come potentially between it.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. I mean, that's all good. I like Ryan. I like the Goss.
Yeah.
I just watched Gray Man. Not a moment too late.
we were definitely supposed to do that for the show 3 months ago.
We absolutely should do that for the show. It turned out that it was an absolutely tremendous film.
I wouldn't have gotten quite that far, but it was enjoyable.
I loved it.
I liked it. It was fun.
I loved it.
It was a fun movie. I don't remember it well enough to do an episode on now, but
I'd rewatch it. I was like, it was one of those experiences watching a movie where halfway through I was like, I want to rewatch this. I'm not even done yet. I want to rewatch it. I want to watch it again.
But anyway, those are our major Star Wars news from the last couple of months.
That's good.
Figured
That's good
if
stuff.
You did or didn't see those things, you might want to discuss them. So
yeah, I appreciate it. I'm out of the loop on a lot of the news, so this is good. Whisk Watch.
Yeah, this is a big one, considering I am very far behind on the Oscar stuff because it didn't feel like there was a lot of talk about the Oscar stuff in the last.
I'm going to say it.
Yeah,
it's a weak ass year.
Seems like it.
It's a weak ass year.
A few of those in the last few years.
I've already taken the day after off, but it's a weak ass year.
I did not officially do that yet, but that has more to do with the accounting for my vacation days because my personal fiscal year ends in a few weeks, and that's right after that. So
okay,
I gotta figure out the budgeting of the last couple of. I'm going to be off work tomorrow
sure.
due to weather-related issues. So one of those vacation days will go there. And see how many I have left. I'm taking off Monday after the Super Bowl as well. So I think I'm going to have like 2 days left at the end of that. So
nice.
Got to figure out if I want to roll that day forward for Oscars because it's not that much further past there. So
sure.
I didn't want to take it until the dust cleared and all that shit.
Makes sense. You gotta take the day after so we could have we'll do Oscars. We'll do good food during the Oscars. We'll do drinks.
Hopefully
the next morning.
Hopefully
we'll spicy sunrises.
A moderate amount of scallions.
Moderate scallions.
I mean, I assumed that was why I got that survey.
No, I was literally making a scallion pancake and was curious.
Oh, I thought you were menu planning.
Nope. Just interrogating you.
Yeah, I mean, literally interrogating me about my my quirky cuisine peculiarities.
You're a freak, man.
I mean, I don't think I'm that weird with my palate, but
no, you're fine.
There's really only like one or two like hard and fast things that I'm just like an absolute no on. I'm just an absolute no on mushrooms.
It's people who are intolerant of other people's cultures.
Yes, and the Dutch.
Dutch.
It's really just mushrooms. Like, there's a couple of specific dishes where if it's really in the background of, like, I'm okay with it. I don't like mushrooms. If I can see the mushroom, sure. I don't want to have any.
It's a texture thing, taste thing, both.
It's way more taste for me. I feel like I'm eating dirt. Like it feels like I'm eating dirt.
I can appreciate that. It definitely is. They're earthy.
To the point of it feels like I'm eating earth.
For me, it's like that. This is fungus. Not a fan of it as a concept.
Yeah,
I'll still eat mushrooms here and there, but
yeah, I mean, like I don't love that. Oh, so I didn't realize you weren't a mushroom.
I like them fine. I will cook with them if I'm making something specific that like I actually had mushrooms in my dinner tonight. Weirdly, but
actually, kind of same tangentially.
What are the odds?
Well, I had the other day, and I had like a bite of it cold while I was heating up my actual leftovers for dinner. There's I don't know if you've ever had it with us. There's a meal that we've made for a long time now, the ragu de Parma. Mm-hmm. You've definitely heard us talk about it if you haven't had it. And there are mushrooms in that, but it's like diced up as part of the sauce.
Sure.
And there's so many other more bold flavors that like you probably could not put them in there and you wouldn't even know.
Sure.
And because they're diced up so small and like you have like actual tangible things that you're eating in there, there's either like gnocchi or tortellini, sausage, there's pancetta, there's carrots, and then there's even like, what's called like ground like tomato stuff, like, so like it gets lost amongst all of that.
Sure.
And it's like like I said, it's like porcini mushrooms, and they're like soaked in wine, and then like the wine and the mushrooms go in. They're like super diced, so like I don't even realize they're in there.
They were a good vessel for wine.
Yeah. So I'm okay with it there,
but wine gushers.
Like I won't even really eat chicken marsala anymore because there's usually like huge hunks of mushrooms in there, and if I have to have it because it's like catered type food,
sure,
I will scrape them out. Like
all right, I get you.
But they're usually
I don't want them
huge,
to be too present. I want them to be in a support role for sure. Yeah. Supporting actor, more background.
There's a couple of specific truffle related things that I will tolerate.
Sure.
But even that, eventually,
a nice truffle fry.
Yeah, I'll have truffle fries. When we were in
truffle oil though, which is different, I feel like, than eating the mushroom.
Yeah, when we were in Florence, it was in like a quarter of the dishes we ate, and the first like 8 times it was fine, and then I was kind of like, okay, I've had my truffle experience. Yeah. Like I'm like let's move on to a new thing now.
I get you. How did we get here? Mushrooms. Oh, Star Wars. Well, Flix, whiskey business.
Yeah.
My dinner today was Mr. Lee's Screamin' Burrito from Wahoo. I'm not sure if you've ever had Wahoo.
I don't think so.
But Mr. Lee's Screamin' Burrito is pretty delicious. Spicy burrito with mushrooms in it. But it got me thinking. Every time I order it, I inevitably chuckle to myself. And the reason being is Just Friends, which I still can't remember. Have you watched Just Friends?
Yeah, we talked about it for the show for our Christmas episode, I want to say 2 years ago.
We did it, though?
Didn't we?
I don't remember.
Pretty sure we did.
Okay, so...
I watched it one time before that.
As friends of the show, and probably my all-time favorite Christmas.
Yeah.
But there's a scene... So, what's his name? Chris Klein. His character is Dusty Dingleman. And in the future, that's like how you know him in the beginning. And in the future sequences, he introduces himself as Dusty. And it's a great scene where Ryan Reynolds' his mouth is completely destroyed from being hit with a puck. And he goes, and he sees Dusty, hey, Dingleman? And he goes, actually, I go by Dusty Lee now. He goes, Dusty Lee? Like, while his mouth is completely... Anyway, later on, that's like kind of a throwaway piece of this. Later on in the movie, Chris goes to Jamie's parents' house and asks where Jamie is. And the father, and he's there with his friend Clark. And Jamie's father goes, she's run off with that Mr. Lee. And Clark goes, the dry cleaner? It's for some reason, it just always gets me. Every time I order the burrito, I can only think of that scene. Random anecdote. So we've got a weak-ass Oscars here.
Yeah.
And the nominees came out. And listen. This is not to disparage any of the performances or things like that. It's just that it's not that exciting.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Dune 2, the fact that it's up, I feel like is telling.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, but also it is kind.
I think it deserves it, but by what they normally do for the Oscars, you wouldn't see that on there.
It is no. I don't think that's totally fair because I think it is in service to the whole point that they wanted to get. They expanded the field to 10 for Best Picture so that they could incorporate 1 or 2 blockbuster type movies.
I like that the Golden Globes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the other one? They now have a Best Blockbuster.
Okay.
Which I think is a really cool category.
Which, to be fair,
that's like the best movie for people that really like watching movies.
To be fair, though, there wasn't a ton of blockbusters either.
No, there wasn't.
So,
oh man. So what do we got? What do we got in this?
I'm gonna run through the major categories real quick. We got an actor in a leading role, Brody for The Brutalist, The Boy for Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, which I actually thought initially when I saw something for it, I thought that was a documentary. I didn't realize it was like an actual movie. Ray Fiennes for Conclave and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice.
Right.
You have actor supporting role Yura Borisov for Honora, which I've been hearing really good things about. I don't know if you've seen that yet. I haven't seen it.
Not yet.
Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, tonight's movie.
Ooh.
Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. Guy Pearce for The Brutalist. Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Actress in a leading role, Cynthia Erivo from Wicked. Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez. Mikey Madison for Honora. Demi Moore for The Substance, which I've also heard really good things about that. I don't know if I'm going to get to that one, but I'm kind of intrigued. Fernando Torres for I'm Still Here. Actress in a supporting role, Monica Barbera for A Complete Unknown. Ariana Grande for Wicked. Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. I feel like she's now been racking up a whole bunch of nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. And Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. And then skip through, since I don't know how much of this stuff we've seen. Directing, we've got Sean Baker for Menora. Brady Corbett for The Brutalist. James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. Amelia Perez for... Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. And Coralie Fargett for The Substance.
Okay.
And then, where is Best Picture? Best Picture. Honora, The Brutalist. A Complete Unknown. Conclave. Dune Part 2. Amelia Perez. I'm Still Here. Nickel Boys. The Substance. And Wicked. And also, just as a note to this, since we're doing the movie again today, A Real Pain was also nominated for Original Screenplay by Jesse Eisenberg, who wrote and directed this.
I think that's pretty... That's a debut for him? Or
I believe so. At least for like features, I think it is.
Sure. I of the stuff that is up, the Complete Unknown is the thing that I'm most interested in seeing.
I really want to see Conclave.
I don't even remember what that is.
That is... It looks like some sort of kind of like pot boiler drama thriller-y thing about like the Cardinals of like electing a pope.
Oh, okay.
That actually looks pretty good.
Yeah. I do want to see that.
Yeah.
Conclave. That's how that song goes, right?
Sure, totally.
Jack White. It's there. So I think we've got a month. We're about a month out as we record this, a little less. I'm not obviously.
Most of the things
I will
are
do
not,
my best for the best pictures.
Most of the things are not super available streaming wise yet, which is a problem for me.
Yeah, they usually come in the last couple weeks.
This past weekend, I was like, oh, let me see if I can maybe at least knock one of them out, and there wasn't really a lot of options.
No. Cinemark is doing their like $40 Oscar pass, which is kind of cool.
But it still requires you to go to the theater.
It requires you to be able to get to the theater, which, yes, not the time of life for me to be able to get there for 10 movies. In 30 days. As much as I'd like to. For past life, 100% would have been there. Would have been done already. Would have seen them all.
One weekend. Done.
One weekend. Knock it out.
Jeez, you think 3 Batmans in a night is impressive? No. Yeah. 10 Best Pictures.
I'm going to watch 10 Best Pictures, and I'm just going to be skull and bones by the end. Done. Oh, man. Yeah, they're usually... Most of these Oscars movies are usually very intense.
Yeah. I want to see The Brutalist. I've been hearing that a lot of people think that's going to run away with everything.
Yeah, what's that one again?
I think it's a biopic about some architect or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know shit about architects, so
I'll check it out.
I'm sure that I'm
we'll have to watch that one with Jay.
But oh yeah.
Cool. All right, should we get into some consumption?
Sure.
Because of which, I watched a lot of things since we last spoke.
It's like I said, too many things. I got to that like, I don't want to say paralysis by analysis, but it's just like I probably watched like 18 things like 2 months ago, and I just don't remember.
Yeah, I tried to write down as many as I could think of, and as I'm saying that, I thought of one more, 2 more. Wow,
I wrote down one.
I had a whole news and nugget section that I did not even put on there. That I didn't realize. I should have scrolled my notes down prior to us doing this. There's a lot of trailers that dropped, which could also fall under consumption.
Okay.
Today, Jurassic World Rebirth.
I saw that it was coming out. I did not watch it.
It's real not good.
Oh, okay.
Not I'm gonna watch it because it's Jurassic Park, and then I say that, and then it dawns on me. I'm not entirely sure I saw the last one.
You did, because we did it for the show.
We did it for the show. Perfect. Yeah. All right. So
at least I'm pretty sure
I'll watch it. I like watching it.
The last one was the one with the giant mutated bugs in the island, and all the old original cast came back. It was like giant hordes of locusts. They were eating all the crops.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I do remember that. All right.
I thought that movie was supposed to be the end, so I was pretty shocked when, like, a year ago, I saw that they were doing this new movie again.
They're doing the Jurassic World thing again.
I forgot about it.
Rinse and repeat, baby.
And then I saw, like, set photos or whatever, like a teaser still, like, a few weeks ago, and I was like, I memory hold that they were doing this again. Why are they doing this again? And then I did see that the trailer was coming out today. I did intend to watch it. I forgot.
That's fine.
I did watch some other trailer that came out the other day. I don't remember what it was now.
Well, I'll burn through these then. So the other trailers that I have on here, there was an updated trailer for Captain America: Brave New World.
There's been 14 of those. I've seen all those trailers.
I'm excited. I'm actually excited to watch that.
I'd like to see it. At this point, though, they've done the thing where there's been too many damn trailers, where it's like it's now actually lessened. It's like slightly suppressed my excitement for it. Sure. The first teaser trailer came out, it was like cool. The first full trailer came out, I was like, all right, great, let's do it. And then they've come out with 10 new trailers since then.
There was no reason in any of this marketing material to hint at or display that Red Hulk is in it.
They could give you the red fist and not give you any context. You had no idea who it was going to be.
Sure.
The fact that they've gone to the point where we all know who it is now.
Yeah.
That's more
offensive. That's dumb. The Daredevil Born Again trailer.
Yes, that's a show. Sorry, I was thinking movie trailers, but yeah, we did text a little bit about that when that came out a couple weeks ago.
Which I'm excited for that, and if there is a schedule, if you want to rewatch all of Daredevil, there's a schedule that you had to start 2 days ago. To do.
Yeah, I'm not going to do all that as much as I would like to. I just don't have the time. I really did genuinely love that show.
Loved it.
So I am excited for that new one to come out. The thing I haven't seen, although it seems like from what I heard, I don't think that the She-Hulk or the Hawkeye stuff is going to play into it.
I have no idea.
I don't think so. I didn't watch either of those, so.
The Hawkeye one...
I know that there was like a cliffhanger thing, so I don't know how they're going to do that.
It must.
I still never got around to watching that show, so.
The Hawkeye one was resolved. It wasn't a cliffhanger. Well, it was a cliffhanger at the time, but then it Echo?
Oh. Did they resolve it in there?
After that.
I do recall that seeing him in the trailer for that. I totally memory hold that as well. He's
a good actor.
Yeah.
It was very unsettling, that D'Onofrio.
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
No. Next up, this one I saw today. I'm not sure. I think a teaser for the teaser, I think, dropped yesterday, and the actual thing happened today, which was Fantastic Four First Steps. Is that what it's called?
That was the trailer I watched. That came out yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
I watched that one. That was cool. I meant to text you,
that was really cool. I was super into it. I was like, it starts off. I'm like, this is weird. It gets further. I'm like, I like what's happening. I like everything that's happening right now, and I don't trust it. Pedro Pascal gives me a sense of security.
He's like a warm blanket you can wear.
He's a warm blanket. But I was like, this is really interesting. And then as it ended, I was like, what's the time frame? And then I went, because this is the first mainline MCU movie that is not on the sacred timeline.
Yeah, so I feel like my recollection is they've been playing slightly coy with it, and I'm curious as to why they chose to do that.
I assume
because like everything else, for better or worse, has been in service to the main stories. This is not. So
yeah, well, this will. I assume that this will eventually inform, or in some way inform, RDJ as Doctor Doom.
Maybe.
Which there's no, because we understand that it's happening, but the how it's completely opaque to us at this point.
Yeah.
So this would be a how. This would be a potential how, especially if it's not.
I guess so. All I know is it looked cool. It good.
Looks really cool.
I like even though I've never watched or read anything from that timeline, having it from that era, it is kind of a cool nostalgic throwback. I don't even have personal nostalgia to that, and I still feel like adjacent nostalgia to it.
Sure. There's just something cool about retro future stuff like that.
But there's something specific to that story and that cast of characters being in that retro future thing that, like, do you have any appreciation? And my personal level of appreciation for all of that is like a 2, because I didn't read those comics. But I still have a level of, that's a cool thing in service of a fandom that still exists, I'm sure, for that era.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it dawned on me in watching that trailer. We've talked about this before on the show, of actors and actresses having a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Quinn is having a moment.
It's funny because he's the one who stands out to me, where the other 3 are and have been having a moment for the last 5 years, and I don't know who that is.
He is... All right, ready? Let's pull this up. First thing that I remember him from was Stranger Things.
I haven't.
He plays Eddie in Stranger Things, just an absolutely fantastic character. He popped up again in Gladiator 2 recently, where I was just like,
still haven't seen it.
Who is this creep show? And then I was like, oh, right, you're that creep show. And he's in a number of other things. Overlord. This is, IMDb is not doing him justice, because it's not, hang on, let me pull this up. He's obviously going to be in 3 of the next Marvel movies.
It's really weird, though, that, like, Pedro Pascal is a massive star now.
Yeah.
Vanessa Kirby's been doing very well for herself the last 5 or 6 years, however long, whatever. Start your clock with when Hobbs and Shaw came out.
Yeah.
From that moment on, she's been doing pretty damn well for herself, including a couple of Mission Impossibles.
Right.
And then Richie from The Bear, like, he got Andor, and then, like, that was, like, simultaneous basically with, like, the starting of The Bear.
Yeah, but he was in Girls. I feel like that's maybe, like, the first thing that he gets, like,
I've never heard of recognition for. I've never heard of anyone reference him in that show. I'm not doing a bit. Like, Kim watched it, and I've seen him on the screen. The only man I've ever heard anyone reference from that show is Adam Driver. I'm being dead serious. I don't think I've ever
Star Wars crossover.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like Star Wars fans talked about him in Andor, but, like, I don't even feel like he's known as the guy from The Bear now. But, like, even starting with Andor, which was, like, right before The Bear started, and, like, to go through that to this,
is it? I thought Andor was after the first season of The Bear.
They were within a couple months of each other, whichever one came out first. I don't remember. The thing is, I didn't watch either one. No, sorry. I did start watching Andor when it came out, and then, like, I fell off for, like, a month or 2, and then I watched the whole thing. So, like, I finished it, like, not long after it finished, and then I obviously didn't watch The Bear until this past fall or whatever. So
yeah. Anyway, the trailer is honestly, like, that's a good trailer.
Yeah.
Right. Like, fully, like, give me the theme, show me relationships, maybe a hint at what the story is going towards, but not what the story is. Please.
I mean, notably, we didn't really see the villain. We saw the back of his head. I don't know who's playing him.
Sure, that's true.
I'm sure that if I looked up IMDb, I'd find it, but I don't actually know who's playing him.
No, I don't intend to do that.
I mean, do you want to be surprised for the first time in moviedom in the last, like, 20 years or whatever, 30 years?
I'd like to be surprised, but by the time they drop the next teaser, they'll not only show me who's playing him, but how he becomes that person.
Well, maybe. But to be fair, though, if you were saying you're getting a Fantastic Four movie and Galactus is the end, you would expect to find out who was playing Galactus. Like, that's a big casting. Not that big. You know what I mean? Like, but to me, it's shocking. I don't know. Yeah. I remember it being a big deal when the 4 of them were cast to be the 4 of them. Mm-hmm. I don't know a single other person who's in that movie.
Yeah. I just don't know. I'm in on this, and it's also not far.
I feel like I heard a ton about it well before it started being made. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like I heard almost nothing about it until this past week or 2.
Yeah, which is pretty, I feel like, for them and, like, for the MCU and, like, how they do these trailers, like, this is pretty late.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, not a bad thing.
This is my jam. Love it.
Not necessarily
more of this. And I do think that there must be, I'm still, you know, my assumption is the RDJ thing, but, like, they're trying, I think they are, in fact, trying to hide a big reveal, which part of it may very well be how these other timelines are going to influence the actual MCU. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be awesome, and it's already captured my attention more so than anything in the MCU has probably in a long time. Maybe
Yeah.
since the last Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
okay.
You looked it up.
Yeah. When I say the name, it's probably not going to get a response from you. But like, you'll recognize this guy's face.
What's the name?
Ralph Ineson. Ineson.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what's like the first thing if I say it that you're going to recognize. You didn't see the new Nosferatu movie, right?
No.
Okay, well, apparently he's in that. I didn't realize that. I'm trying to think of what's like the big smoking gun. Well, so I mean, the big thing that like I always think of him from is Game of Thrones.
Okay, I know this face.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, you're gonna know his face.
Yeah,
you're gonna know his voice. He's got a pretty distinct voice, but
yeah,
he's usually like that guy.
He's Snapfinger famous.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, in the probably going to be more of a CG role anyway, but
yeah, it's probably mostly for his voice, which, like I said, pretty distinctive voice.
Cool, that's exciting. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and I think what is it? It's April. Or is it April?
Sorry, the problem is I'm so used to the phone one now that I don't remember the layout of the.
You could probably hear me typing.
July 25th.
July. Okay, that makes sense because the other two Marvel movies coming out are May and February. Okay, neat. Well, looking forward to that. And again,
what's coming out in May?
Thunderbolts.
That's right. I totally forgot about that one.
It looks so like
Fantastic. There's been 40 trailers for that too.
Yeah, too many. It looks so like I love again like it just looks different. The aesthetic they're choosing to do is like really it's intriguing and exciting like that. It definitely feels different than the other MCU stuff, and how they've woven things together in the past has been the really cool thing to experience. So seeing that they're going to be introducing something separate and then pulling it back in, I'm really curious to see how they do it. Hopeful that they, I don't know, let's reignite the flame. You know what I mean? Like this is, it's getting snuffed out over the course of the last few years. Let's bring it back. Speaking of things that should die, the DC EU, the Superman trailer.
To be fair, this is also having been reborn, right? This is the new official thing.
So, yes, light, because now they're being cagey again.
Are they?
Yeah, which I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate because first off, why like you're introducing a character again? This is the time that it's now something different. What are you being weird about this for?
I don't recall hearing that, but I'd be lying if I said I was like super plugged into everything about it.
Yeah.
Like I saw the trailer when it came out, and I saw like a little bit of stuff around it, but like I'm not super plugged into that. Trailer was fine.
The latest trailer is good.
There's been more than one.
There's more. It's a little bit bigger.
Okay, I didn't realize there was a
lot of the same stuff in there, like whatever pieces that they like reclipped, but a little more detail, a little bit more. A little more tone and relationship things that I want out of the trailer. Like, who are these people? Like, how do they interact with each other? And don't give me too much. And maybe like they showed like a monster and a villain here and there. I'm a little bit worried at the number of people in the movie.
It does seem like it's a pretty juicy cast.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. But it looks
again, though, if I recall from that trailer, not immediately obvious who the villain is, right? I mean, there's Lex Luthor, but.
Yeah, because like something funky's going on with the Green Lantern too, and there's a weird lizard monster at some point. So, we'll see. But it looks promising.
Yeah. No, I have no reason after watching the trailer. I have no reason to be like, ugh. Like, for someone who doesn't particularly overall care about the DC at large, you have a chance of attracting me for any given Batman thing. Mm-hmm. Like the DC at large stuff, I just don't. Considering I was not a big comic guy on either way, I don't know why I automatically gravitate more towards Marvel stuff. And always have. With the exception of Batman.
Yep.
Like Spider-Man guy, there's an X-Men guy. Like insofar as someone can be when they were not a fan of the comics. Like not that I dislike them, I just didn't engage with them.
Yeah, I was always into Batman and the Flash, but like that was probably the extent of DC, and I really enjoyed Marvel things, Marvel properties. Aside from that, Batman number 1, Daredevil number 2, Flash number 3.
Okay.
Growing up, um,
For me, it was probably pretty much just like it was like Batman, Spider-Man, and X-Men.
yeah, Spider-Man. I got into Daredevil. My old neighbor was big into had all the comics, all the toys. Like kind of taught me some of showed me the ropes with some of these things. And when he explained to me the concept of Daredevil, I was like, "What?" And I was like, "He's blind." And I was just like super into it. This guy's a badass. But anyway, the Superman trailer actually looks decent. I was rewatching that earlier, and I'm like,
honestly, my biggest issue with the potential connections to the DC is he looks disturbingly like Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Like, I get that, like, you could make an argument that Henry Cavill, like, kind of looks like the quintessential Superman.
Sure.
And so any other Superman is going to look somewhat like him, but...
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Henry
Does
Cavill...
Henry Cavill look like Superman, or does Superman look like Henry Cavill?
Because, like, I don't feel like Henry Cavill looks anything like Christopher Reeve or Brandon Routh.
Right.
But I feel like David Cornswell looks like Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And so does Superman.
And so does Superman.
Yeah. I agree. We should get like distorted CG versions of these superheroes, like in the like old animated series style. Like they should look like an upside down triangle. They should just like put everything through a filter and make it look ridiculous.
It's like just polygons. We're just
polygons.
Just polygons.
All right. So those were all the trailers that I had listed.
Okay. Consumption.
For consumption, I was thinking, here's what, because I have a lot on my list, I was thinking I will burn through it and stop along the way if there's anything of note.
Okay.
Or I'll try to be brief on each one, and you could jump in if you also have watched stuff.
Well, if you have a bunch of things, just like name a thing. Mm-hmm. I'll say like more or less. Make a comment, ask a question, something like that.
Sure. All right. Well, we already said West Wing.
Got it.
Still great. Mm-hmm. Really enjoying it now that I figured it out again. The Recruit.
Has there been more than one version of that? What is that?
Netflix show. Season 2 just came out.
Okay.
The first time Kim and I started to watch it, we turned it off after a few episodes because some of the acting is rough and the situations that they get into are so contrived that it's like, stop. Like if you're being hunted, don't stop in the middle of the street.
That one Geico commercial said it best, like the horror movie commercial, where it's like, "Why don't we get in the running car? Yeah. Are you stupid? Let's go hide behind the chainsaws."
the two lead characters, like the one that's not the night agent, is an idiot, just a dumb person. But playing to like the character's supposed to be real smart. It's really it got to the point where we kind of like laughed through that stuff, and it ended up being like exciting to see where it was going. So it was a fun watch. Nope, sorry, that was the night agent. I said the Recruit.
Yeah.
Okay, I just explained the night agent.
Okay.
The Recruit is much better.
I was a little confused at one point because you said the night agent, and I was like, "Is that was this guy in like both roles or like?"
It's because I'm watching too many of these like political like CIA plus thrillers. Okay. Which just I'm adding another one to the list.
Oh Jesus.
That I watched.
I'm actually watching one as we speak.
The Recruit. It was actually awesome. I really like The Recruit. I think you'd like it too. It's very exciting. It's
Which
CIA,
one was The Recruit?
CIA lawyer, young.
Okay.
First,
who's in it? Show movie.
The guy that's in it, I know from To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I definitely saw a trailer for this because I watched that series of movies with Gianna.
Yeah, it's a fun series.
Yeah, it got more ridiculous as it went, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that guy. I was like, "Hey, that's that guy."
Yeah, it's that one guy.
It's that one guy.
That show is really good.
Okay.
Really fun. I like where it's going. I mean, it's got a couple of like hiccups, and they really play into like interagency animosity, which I just like. I don't know if it's like a real thing or if it's just like
it's got to be real. It's in every one of those shows.
Yeah, but like it's like over the top in this one where they're like, I mean, actively trying to kill each other in certain sequences. Like it's crazy.
You never watched Chuck, right?
No, I did not.
I know I talked about it when I watched it. That was a pretty healthy amount of what Chuck was about.
Okay.
The Adam Baldwin character and the Yvonne Strahovski character, one of them worked for the FBI, one of them worked for the CIA, or one of them worked for the NSA, and one of them worked for CIA. I forget which one it is. But at one point, or maybe a couple of different times, one of them was ordered to kill the other or something like that. But they also were both responsible for taking care of him and making sure that he was doing the job and like not being assassinated and all that sort of stuff. It made for an interesting tension within the show. I mean, it was pretty ridiculous, but it was one of the central tensions of the show.
That's cool. I like that. I mean, it could be fun to watch. The crew, it's like super fast paced. They're hour-long episodes that fly by because they're just exciting and fun. Performances are really solid. I just really like it all around. I think you would have a good time watching it. The second season's only like 6 episodes, and the first season's only 8. So like
there's been more than one season. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a huge. It just came back, so it's not a huge investment, but it's a lot of fun. And we're 1 episode out from finishing it, and I'm excited to finish it.
Okay.
The third show in this trifecta of international spies and such is The Diplomat.
Okay, that also sounds familiar.
So that's Kerry Russell.
Oh yeah. Okay, there's been a couple seasons of that, right?
And there's 2 seasons. We actually similar situation where we watched the first one as we knew the second one was coming, and then watched the second one.
Yeah, I believe that my close personal friend Alan Sepinwall is a big fan of that show.
It is a good show. Like this is an Al show. The level of depth that they go into with like experiences and like the fun wordplay and the witty quippiness of the dialogue. It's just, I think you'd really enjoy it. It's got you guessing all the way through. It's got you like, who the character is, but you start to like, maybe not this time. And it's like, no, this time too. Like, they're telling, like, we're not lying to you. Like, we're putting it out there. Like, they do a really good job. I will say, how I feel about cliffhangers, right? This show played the perfect balance where the second season is a complete story and manages a cliffhanger that is so fantastic that I'm not even mad. I'm just like, the way that they executed it just blew me away.
Where it is nice to have something to look forward to, but you also want to feel some level of resolution as well.
And there absolutely was resolution on like the actual storyline they were like exploring, and then they drop a bomb at the end, and it's like, like me and Kim both like jaw drop turned to each other when it was over. Like that was bonkers.
Like literally, they literally dropped a bomb.
Literally dropped a bomb. No, it's. I would love for you to watch it so that we can catch up on that. Is this Diplomat
Jack Ryan? Does she not only take care of diplomacy, but also occasionally get their hands dirty and kill some people?
Not exactly, but I think you'll like it. Next up on the list, Silo.
I really want to watch that show at some point. I'm still way behind on my backlog of shows, but I'm going to get to it at some point. I am.
Silo season 2 also had a cliffhanger, maybe not as cliffhangery as The Diplomat. Like they progressed the story. It's so funny because it's like maybe, what is it, like 8 or 10 episodes in the season, and we don't really take a huge step forward in what we know and what we're learning. But the journey was fun. There's a couple of new big things, and I think they're doing 1 more season or 2 more seasons. But there's a limit. There's a time limit. It's been set. Like it's going to be over soon.
And that one is based on a book or books, too.
Correct.
And the other show I really wanted to watch on Apple that I still haven't got to is what the hell is the Asimov one? The series of books I read that I'm totally forgetting what it's called now. Foundation. That's the other one I want to watch.
Yeah, I have to pick that back up.
I know you watched at least part of the first season.
Yeah, I was really into it, but something just happened and I didn't finish it.
And there's been at least 2 seasons of that.
Yeah, I would like to get back to that. That was good. Severance.
Yes, let's talk about Severance.
Let's pause here on Severance for a minute.
I'm fully caught up by the time this
Show me your belly.
So there's been 3 episodes that have been out as of when we're recording this. They're doing Friday releases, right? So the 4th episode will probably be out the day that this episode comes out. So we'll be a little bit behind. But pretty good start to everything.
Really good start.
I did get a little bit of anxiousness, and like I've gotten so used to watching so much good TV that when something doesn't kind of go the way I personally want it to go, like structurally, now I'm like a little bit spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to. I made a conscious thought during the course of that episode when I was getting like a little antsy about it. Where it's like, this is a really good show. You enjoy this show. Let them tell the story the way they want to tell it.
Sure.
Because when it got to the point where we're like 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, we still have no concept of what's going on with like the fallout of the outside world. It's like, this is insane. This is crazy. I'm like, you gotta give me something. And it was like, they're not gonna not do it for the whole season.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Yeah.
And the second episode is like a lot outside of it. And it's like, okay, see, you told yourself to calm down. You were right to do so. Like, we're going to be okay. We're all going to survive this.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, excellent show, though. Like, I'm so love. Like, I'm all for this week to week with it. At the end of each episode, I'm like, man, I wish there was another one. But at the same time, I'm very excited to sit down next week and watch it.
Yeah, I've seen people, I hate that there's no shows that are week to week. And other people, this show's week to week. I'll wait till the season's over.
Yeah.
It's nice to have both.
It's nice to have both.
It's nice to have the show that you can binge if you want to. And it's nice to have the show that paces you out and makes you want to come back to it.
I'm going to draw a line, though.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix is doing something real shitty that I don't like.
Okay.
Which is 2 drops for one season.
Were they doing the split seasons?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole third thing.
No, thank you.
I actually like what a lot of these other streaming and even like streaming adjacent things have done, where it's like, we're going to give you 2 episodes and then go weekly. We're going to get you that little bit of a adrenaline rush like you would get a binge, or even like, there's even been a couple shows that have done like 3 episodes.
Yep.
You know, or like I think, didn't Disney Plus do with...
Disney Plus does this.
They did that with The Mandalorian, I think, where they did 2 episodes, or it was like premiere, and then like 2 days later was second episode, and then that was the weekly.
Yeah,
like from that day.
Didn't The Mandalorian do 2 episodes in the first drop, and then one a few days later?
So maybe that's what it was. Like, which is a cool way to do it. Where like they released it was like 2 episodes.
Like, bonus.
It was like 2 episodes came out on like a Friday, and then like the next episode was Wednesday, and then they were like weekly Wednesday,
right,
or something like that.
Right.
I like that idea of kind of a compromise between, we're going to give you a good chunk of this to really get your attention, and then we're going to do a weekly from this. I like the weekly release. I don't need all of the shows to be weekly, but I like some of them to be weekly.
Sure.
There feels like there's some gravitas to it.
Yeah.
Like, it gives me a chance to, I've watched it, hopefully that day, but maybe it was the next day.
Yeah.
I've had time to engage with whatever other media, whether it be a podcast, whether it be articles, read those things. I can talk. You and me can text, or someone else watches it, can talk about it, whatever. We can do it on the show. When a binge show comes out and it's like, oh, you watched 4 episodes, but I only watched 2.
Yeah, you can.
And then next week you've watched 7 and I've watched 4. Like, it
gets clunky.
I don't object to there being some shows that are binge shows. It's nice to have those also, but I like having some of these shows be weekly. I like looking forward to something.
Yeah, I'm down with it.
That sounded more depressing than it was supposed to.
I like having something to look forward to. What I will say, I do think that formula of if you're going to do weekly thing, that formula of dropping 2 at the beginning is super helpful, because pilot episodes, especially for a new series, because pilot episodes are notoriously trash. Like, they are. I feel like it's
really hard to do a good pilot.
It is, and then but what they do is they hook you in the last 10 seconds of the episode. That's how they do it. I feel like there's just enough to lead, like it's a cliffhanger, just enough mystery to be like, oh, I want to know. And then somehow, and every time, never fails, the second episode, everybody feels established.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they can't capture that. Like, I know we've talked about it in the past. Like, I can't even think of it in this moment. But there's been shows that have pulled it off, where the pilot episode is just good from the jump. It's rare.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the hook happens at the very end, and you're like, okay, I'll keep watching, and then you watch it. But like to do that and then also have the subsequent episode available to you, that's the real hook.
So I think the Americans pilot was great, but part of what made it so great was it's like 90 minutes long. It's basically 2 episodes.
Sure.
Game of Thrones pilot is overwhelming to the senses. It's a pretty excellent pilot. The degree of difficulty on getting you to want to come back, to that first episode to be over and be like, I do not remember one name of the 50 they threw at me.
Right.
But I want to spend the time learning them.
Sure.
Because there's so much going on. I can't follow anything. I don't know who's talking about what. I don't know where any of this is taking place. There's something about it. And also, that dude's fucking his sister and then threw a kid out of a tower. Like, it's like, oh, I gotta see what happens next. Yeah. Holy shit. It's a fantastic pilot. And the degree of difficulty is an 11.
I was about to jump on. It's like somehow they factor this into their formula. They're like, most of the audience members were like, we were about to bounce off of this show, and but then they did incest, and it was like, well, now I got to know more. Incest and child murder. Oh man. But back to Severance for a moment. I've been talking to one of my buddies about this. We're both big fans of Dylan at the moment. Great
Dylan
character.
G? Dylan or Dylan J? Dylan J. Dylan's a fuck up. He's kind of a fuck up, isn't he?
Yeah, Dylan G. They what they did in this last episode was twisted in so many ways, and I'm so here for it.
Everything they're doing is twisted in so many ways.
What is the the enforcer's name? Like the guy that is now like the manager of the floor, but not the manager.
Milkshake.
That man.
Milkshake.
He pulls off creepy so well. Like, I don't know what they're like. The man just deserves an award for this performance in this show.
Oh yeah.
Like, just everything that he's doing is blowing me away. Mm-hmm. Like from like the way that he treats the innies, to the fear on his face when he's talking to certain people that are higher up, to like the vibe that he's 100% trapped in this, like that you get when he's talking to the, I guess, I don't know, the liaison for the board. What?
Natalie?
It's so good. The two of them in that sequence, I was like, I am uncomfortable.
What's incredible is there is a level of that like paranoid fear of the bosses here, but also I'm pretty sure I detected some disgust for the blackface, which totally understandable.
We created Kira in your image, and I was like, they did what now?
Yeah, as soon as he said that, they're like, oh, we want you to be able to see yourself in this, and I'm like, please don't do what I think you're gonna do.
Yeah, you're like no.
I was like, please don't do what you think. I think you're gonna do. Oh, it wasn't exactly what I thought you were gonna do, but it's not that far off.
Yeah. Still not good.
And he's like, wow, this is definitely a thing that you have done.
Yeah. I'm gonna hide this. I'm gonna hide this in the supply closet.
Actually, as for as great as he is in general, and in that scene specifically, she was just as good.
Oh, she like the fear and like the discomfort.
Well, like she's got this bubbly, hey, I'm on and we're doing this stuff, and oh, everything is so incredible. And there's a couple of times where her voice wavers.
Yeah, it's
and
like
then that
twice if you're in duress.
And it's like, is there going to be a single tear that rolls down her eye as this conversation is finishing?
Yeah, it's creepy. I like this show so much. I'm very excited for Friday.
Yes, we got an unexpected.
I just don't understand how they go episode to episode, and I somehow know less each time.
It is true. It's one of those things where we've kind of answered one question and we've introduced 37 more.
Yeah.
Speaking of Game of Thrones, we got a unexpected Gwendolyn Christie sighting.
Yeah,
which was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Are you one of the mammalians nurturable?
So that's Severance. Squid Game season 2.
I never saw the first season, so
oh man, it was good. It was really, really
I know everyone loved it. It is one of those things where I've like kind of thought I might like to check that out at some point. I even like kind of want to more check it out now with like after having enjoyed what's his name from The Acolyte so much.
Sure.
Like, I'm sure he's even better in this. Considering
he's excellent. I think so. What's really cool about season 2 is just like how drastically different his character is. because of the events of the first season. What they do something extremely bold, which is the twist is known to the audience early,
Okay.
but not to the people in the show.
Okay.
So like you're the whole time you're like on edge because you're like, well, I know that this thing is not what they think it is.
Yeah.
How is this going to play out? And it creates just this insane tension all the way through. Like, but to the point where like Kim and I were both just like, well, this thing is not going to happen because of X, Y, or Z. Why am I on the edge of my seat right now? Like, it's like really good. And also ends on just a cliffhanger, a painful cliffhanger, with the only thing to alleviate that pain, the fact that season 3 is done. Like they filmed them both at the same time.
I would say I did actually hear something about that recently because it had been a while, since the first season was out.
Yeah,
and I know I had heard there was some sort of behind the scenes issues and like something to do with like the guy who made the show got paid almost nothing for the first season, and like so people were like, "Oh, what does that mean for the future of the show?" And what it meant for the future of the show was, I'm assuming he was like, "Well, I'm not doing shit unless you pay me," and like he made both seasons together because I heard like, "Oh, after how incredibly long it was between season 2, shockingly soon to season 3." I was like, "Oh,
which
okay,
is the end,
that's cool."
which will be good. Which okay. I'm glad that it's over because it's it's we've run the course. Like we don't need too much more of this.
It seems like a pretty intriguing premise, but I would wonder how long you could go with.
Yeah, well, the first season is super awesome because of like you're being introduced to like the rules of the world and everything, right? And it's like you're figuring you're in it with the lead, learning as he learns.
Mm-hmm.
The second season is interesting because he's on like a mission, and the twist is, like I said, is clear to you, the audience, but not to them.
Yeah.
The third season is dealing with the fallout of that. So I'm excited to see where and like it's going to wrap everything up. And there was a trailer for the third season today, which I'm really, really pumped about. Cobra Kai also caught up on that. This is the final season of Cobra Kai. They did a
This
Netflix
is part 2 of the 3-part finale, right?
That's right, which pissed me off. But so the third part comes out next week. So whatever.
Oh, is it that soon? Okay.
We'll finish it up. Just always fun. Cobra Kai, always fun. That's what they say, right?
Totally.
Outlander, the second half of the most recent season. Watch that in this last hiatus of ours. It went places.
Is this the final season?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw something about that being the final season. I don't know why.
No, it's not. Definitely not over.
Okay.
Some big things left on the edge of that cliff. Yellowstone, as we talked about, largely like Yellowstone is one of the ones I was talking about where like had a good time watching it. I was like interested in it. I was going week to week. I was like very much wanted to see where it was going. Definitely want to see how they wrap it up. And now that it's over, you brought it up before because it wasn't even on my list until you said it. I've largely just forgotten about it. Like it's like one of those things. It's good in the moment, but it doesn't really have that lingering effect.
Well, it seemed like there was kind of a disappointing conclusion to the whole thing, right?
I didn't really think it was disappointing. I was here for it.
Well, not the finale itself, but like the whole final half season or whatever.
I thought it was actually well done.
Okay, I know my parents liked the finale itself, but it seemed like during the run of however many episodes that was that they were a little underwhelmed.
Yeah. It's whatever. Penguin, on the other hand, I have not stopped thinking.
Okay.
Did you?
I watched all of it, yeah.
You watched all of it. I really enjoyed the Penguin.
Yeah, it was excellent.
I think they did a great job. I think that his performance was unbelievable. And the way that series ended, this is one of those things that I was like saying before. We're telling you who this guy is. We're telling you. We're just telling you who it is. So stop thinking otherwise.
Yeah.
And somehow he convinces you otherwise. But it's not true.
It was like, oh, you guys thought you were born in the anti-hero and molded by it?
Yeah.
Well, joke's on you, because apparently you still haven't learned the lesson.
Yeah.
This guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah. It was really twisted. Like, so much so that, like, I feel like that show was excellent all the way through. and just explodes into the stratosphere in that final sequence.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, oh my God. Really great stuff. Agatha All Along.
Okay. You hadn't finished it by the last time we talked?
I hadn't. I had one episode left.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I think that it works really well separated from everything else. I think they just did a really good and interesting kind of like witch storyline.
Yeah.
The reveals along the way, why things are happening the way they happen at the end, like very cool, which ends up ultimately tying it back to everything else. But it was actually I was very much into it.
I mean,
very
it seemed
catchy
like
music.
It seemed like you were enjoying it.
Good performances
all along.
Yeah, I was enjoying it all along. And last on the list here, I watched Joker 2.
You did tell me about that, yeah.
I think we should do it. I think we should do it, and I think we should get Gary.
Why? I was like, why are you doing this to me?
I was like, all right. I was like, sat down. I was like, here we go. I am ready to watch this train wreck. And I sat down, and I'm like, uh-oh, I'm kind of into this. And then it ended, and I was like, it was pretty good. And then I was like, I feel like the title is more meaningful by the end. I was like, you got me. It's off the wall. It's weird. It is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I get that. I liked it.
Doesn't even seem like it was entirely the people who made its cup of tea. By the end of it, was Todd? Is it Todd Howard? Todd something? Todd Phillips.
Phillips?
Todd Howard. Someone else.
Yeah.
Todd Phillips. Todd Howard.
That's Bethesda.
Yeah. Todd Phillips. From what I understand, by the time they had concluded everything, I don't think Todd Phillips was on speaking terms with anyone at Warner anymore. Like, he didn't show up for any of the the premiere or any of that stuff.
I can see this. It doesn't. It feels like it grew a life of its own. I don't like. It definitely feels like this was not something that was intentional.
Well, it's odd to me considering how much control it seemed he had over the first one that that wouldn't be the case in the second one. I'm confused. I'd like to see the tell-all of what happened.
Sure,
because it seemed like they were very much in the Todd Phillips business, which you would think would give him more control and more ability to do what he wanted to do. And somehow that story ended with him no longer on speaking terms with Warner. So
yeah, whatever inner relationships at the company level and whatnot, I thought it was interesting. It's not like it's some fantastic like, oh my God, everybody needs to watch this movie. I just enjoyed my time with it. It's, as much as you can with something as dark as that. It was just I was into it. I would be curious, like, to discuss the finer points of the movie with you. There were some choices along the way. There was, I remember years ago when they were talking about this, it being like somebody like it coming up that it was going to be a musical, and then not hearing anything about that for a really long time, and thinking when I sat down, I was like, I'm actually hoping for a musical. I don't know, like I'm like really. And it's not a musical.
Well, spoiler alert. But maybe you'll be looking forward to seeing Amelia Perez, which is nominated for Best Picture, and from what I understand, seems to be threatening to set a record for the worst Rotten Tomatoes reviewed movie ever nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no interest in it, but I'm going to end up watching it.
Do you know what it's about?
It's the most easily available Oscars movie at the moment.
Yeah. Do you know what it's about?
I don't.
It is about a drug cartel kingpin somewhere in South America. I don't know where because I didn't see the movie. Who decides to transition, and it's a musical.
I want to watch it.
I mean, it's a bonkers premise.
It is a bonkers premise. Joker 2 is also pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
A lot of parallels.
Well, two movies that when you just said the premise of the movie doesn't scream musical, right?
Does not scream musical. There's a final. The reason why I actually want you to watch it so that you'll go through the whole thing for the end, just to discuss the very, very end.
I mean, I'm not going to watch the movie unless we do it for the show.
Okay.
If I watch this movie and it turns into accidentally one of our 3-month hiatuses, I'm not going to be as like understanding and sympathetic as I've been the other times.
Not if you like it.
I'm gonna be mad if you make me watch this movie and we don't do an episode, because I'm not watching it a second time. Like, I'm just not going to.
I think you should
Watch it a second time. No,
I think I'll rewatch it for you.
You can rewatch it. I'm not going to. I will watch it. I will not rewatch it.
I think that's the end of that's all I can think of for now. There's definitely more that I watched, but
I have a few things too.
Yeah,
so
hit me.
I watched The Hitman, which you said you watched.
Yes,
I watched that a couple weeks ago. It was a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's also one of those things that was funny, like in the moment while watching. Well, first of all, I remember this movie coming out. I was like, oh, I might want to watch that. Like Glenn Powell's having a moment.
Mm-hmm.
This movie came out. People said they liked it. Okay. Willing to give it a try. Just didn't get around to it until a few weeks ago. I realized that I did not quite understand what the movie was about. like going in. I thought it was about a hitman. I thought it was supposed to be kind of like a dark comedy, which it is. Like a dark comedy, like, haha, he's a hitman, whatever. He's got all these colorful different disguises and this and that. Did not realize that that's not what the movie is quite about.
Yep.
which is fine. I just remember while watching it being like, I didn't realize that this guy was not a hitman at all. Never mind. While watching it, it was funny because they kept going through like, hey, I know that person. Hey, I know that person. Do I know that person? I do know that person. That was the guy from The Walking Dead. This girl seems familiar, but I don't think I actually know her. Turns out I do know her. She was in Andor. Didn't recognize her at all. Yeah. Which, coincidentally, and very small note here, I started rewatching because I wanted to rewatch that before the new season comes.
When is the new season?
I think April?
Okay. Yeah, I would rewatch that.
Well, I started rewatching it this week with my dad because he didn't see it. And he really liked Rogue One. I was like, well, then you got to watch this with the second season coming out soon. So, but anyway, back to
maybe I could rewatch that one with Kim. She didn't see it, but she's got a thing for Diego Luna, so I think I could.
That's right. Yeah, because she saw Rogue One with us, and I remember she was talking about. I was like, I had no idea who that guy was before watching the movie. I didn't realize she had seen him and stuff. So,
no, Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights.
Yes, that's what she mentioned.
No,
I was not aware he was in that. Anyway, Hitman, very fun movie. Super dark by the end. You know what? The funny thing was, as it was like moving towards its conclusion, I had a flashback to watching Death of Stalin.
Yeah. Yeah, how did this go from like kind of whimsical and fun and obviously, there's murder, but it's like it's kind of silly to like, why did this have Memento vibes? Like what
Memento and Death of Stalin, which are two of the darkest endings to movies you'll ever see. Although they came back around with this one because we went back to whimsical for the final 5 minutes of the movie.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It was a fun one. It's just a fun watch. Like that's what I love that. I love that experience going into a movie just to have a good time and coming out of it being like, yeah. I would recommend somebody watch this.
Far exceeded my expectation. Not that like I thought it was going to be bad. It was just like I thought it was like, it'll be like a fun, interesting, whatever. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
On the topic of Glenn Powell, I saw probably it was a little more than a month ago, probably like 2 months ago. I saw a trailer for a new show he's going to be on. I think on Netflix. Called I want to say it's called like I forget what it's called. It's got a ridiculous name. I got to look it up. But I remember I was watching the trailer. Me and Dominic were watching something, and there was a commercial trailer for it that came on. And he's like, that looks fucking stupid. And I was like, it does look stupid, but there's something about this. Sorry, it's called Chad Powers. I was like, there's something about this that's clicking in my head with some sort of recognition. I don't know what it is. And as we're watching the trailer, I realized what it was. So it's him. He's playing at like college football. Mm-hmm. And Dominic's like, he looks way too old to be a college football player. And then it clicked for me what this was.
21 Jump Street.
No. So, like 10 years ago or something like that, when Eli Manning was still playing for the Giants, he did an off-season, like, stunt where he pretended to be a walk-on quarterback who tried out at Penn State. He's 35 years old, has been an NFL quarterback for over a decade, and he like went undercover in a terrible disguise to pretend to be a walk-on quarterback, which they were filming it like somewhat discreetly and all that. And it was just like a sketch thing. Like they were just doing like a joke. So this show is like inspired by that because Chad Powers was the name that he like signed in as like the walk-on quarterback as.
That's kind of fun.
So that's what the whole point. That like obviously they've now created a whole mythology. It's like the way that Ted Lasso started is like a commercial for the Olympics, and it turned into a television show. Mm-hmm. That's what like they're essentially doing this, where it's like, well, what if a 35-year-old guy pretended to be a freshman walk-on at a college?
This may have been born from that real world scenario, but that real world, this is life imitating art. That real world scenario was born from a subplot of the movie Never Been Kissed.
I never saw that.
Where Drew Barrymore, who is a reporter, has to pretend to go to.
Okay, I saw a very small amount of that movie. I am aware of the movie.
And
okay,
she is struggling to become popular to get scoops, and her brother
21 Jump Street joins
and becomes a member of the football team or the baseball team. So it's all comes full circle. Never Been Kissed. I quote it regularly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of want to see that when it comes out.
Yeah, I would watch that. That looks fun. I would watch that. Glenn Powell will have in a moment, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah. Juror number 2. Have you seen this movie?
No, I've heard. Maybe I saw a trailer for it.
I was vaguely aware of it, and I had heard that people liked it. My dad saw it on the plane. He was in Japan all last week, and so I watched it because he was like going on about it, and so I watched it the other day. Good movie. Pretty heavily cribs from 12 Angry Men, but that's not like the whole thing. It's definitely not a remake of that.
God, what a great movie.
Yeah. So there's definitely some 12 Angry Men. There's some My Cousin Vinny. There's some Dexter to it.
Okay.
I would say lightly, but cool premise. I don't want to spoil what it's actually about, but it's about a group of people who are doing a murder trial, like the jury in the murder trial, and there are things that are more than they seem with all of it. Okay. So it's a good, pretty interesting watch. There's some cliche stuff. We were talking the other day about like having issues with like physics in movies and like other stuff like that and all that sort of stuff. There is something that's central to the case that got me really angry because I'm like, there's just no way that during the investigation of a murder that they would not know this thing. Like, it's just not credible.
Sure.
But it's fine. And they do address it, not satisfactorily in my opinion, but they do address it. It's not just like a total and complete plot hole. It is something that is actually discussed at some point slightly later in the movie. So I was like, okay, I'm like, went from like a 9 with frustration to that to more like a 3, because it's still like, okay, it's one thing that you guys address this,
right?
But anyone who is competent, this wouldn't even have to be addressed in this way,
right?
But no, it is a legitimately pretty good and interesting and engaging movie.
Anybody of note in it?
Yeah, it's Nicholas Hoult is the main character.
Okay, I did see a trailer for that. Yeah,
okay. I believe Clint Eastwood directed it. Which I actually didn't know until like after I was watching it. What's her name? Zoe Deutsch is his wife, and J.K. Simmons is on the jury.
Yeah.
And a couple other people that you might recognize were.
I think I might have come across it the other day while I was scrolling and eventually watched something. Oh, it was actually the night I watched Gray Man.
Okay.
Which I just a quick.
So wait, you just watched it recently?
I literally just watched it the other night.
Okay.
Just a quick aside on the Gray Man. It took me the entire movie a couple of theories along the way to come full circle and remember why I recommended that we do it to begin with.
Oh.
I was like, man, this is really. I was like super into it. I was like, this is really good. I'm really into this. Oh, what do they got? They got the whole MCU in here. That's funny. And I'm going through. I'm watching. This really feels like the Russo brothers. And I'm watching. I was like, that's a Russo brother. And I'm watching, and it's like by the Russo brothers. It's like, that's why I said we should do this.
Yep.
Anyway, maybe we can eventually. But it was good. What else? You got anything else? Consumption? There's a massive hole in my sock.
We talked Severance. Skeleton Crew. Did you ever end up getting?
I didn't get to watch it yet. No.
Okay. Well, it ended a few weeks ago.
All right, so I will binge it.
Watched the whole thing. It was fun.
It was fun. That's what I want. I want fun.
You know, if you like the Goonies and Stranger Things and whatever, it's Star Wars, but that.
Yeah, give me that.
You know, I don't think I loved it as much as some people who were raving about it loved it.
Okay,
but I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah. It was good. It was fun. Jude Law does a good job.
Jude Law and A Semester Abroad. I think it's a brand new song.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's the title.
Take your word.
You actually didn't you throw that at me the other day? Like that sounds like a brand new title.
No. No, sorry. It was this sounds like a Fall Out Boy title or whatever.
Fall Out Boy title.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Can confirm. Jude Law and A Semester Abroad is a song by Brand. Released in 2002.
I was thrown off there for the first time you said it. I thought you meant like it was like a brand new song.
No.
The second time you said it, I realized it clicked for me. I was like,
the band.
He means the band brand new, doesn't he?
He does. He does. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that. I've been wanting to. I just haven't like really made the time.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of TV by myself, so.
But this would. Well, actually, I don't know what Kim's mileage with things like the Goonies and whatever is, but I would assume this would be a show that she would.
I thought that too, but then I figured I should probably watch an episode before I waste her time with it. But
okay,
I think she might be.
I don't know how it will be incorporated, but I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be incorporated with the whole Grogu-averse. Grogu-universe?
Grogu-universe. Oh my god. I got, so I'm in a group chat and only one of the notifications came through, and it's, I guess, in the middle of the conversation. So I was very confused by it because there's completely zero context. But Brian of the Spin June posted that I did it 8 badges. He's been replaying the original Pokemon on Game Boy. And our other friend in the group, Matt, friend of the show, Brian, I did it 8 badges. Matt, I forgot to brush my teeth today. Brian, productive day for both of us. Anyway, sorry, that came in and caught me by surprise. Any other consumption?
I don't know how much time we should spend talking on it, but since the last time we recorded, and now, I played a whole playthrough of Dragon Age Valguard, which I spent a lot of time talking about before our hiatus, before the game came out. Because that game came out on Halloween. Mm-hmm. I want to say our last recording was before Halloween, and we never recorded after that. So,
yeah, that sounds about right.
Maybe the first one I had played for 2 minutes. I don't remember. But I really enjoyed it. I played through it once. It was like 90-ish hour playthrough. It was pretty well completed, I think.
Nice.
I think it's my favorite one of the series.
Wow. Okay.
I am definitely one of the black sheep of the fandom of that series because my favorite prior to now was 2, which is the consensus least favorite amongst the fandom.
That's fine. I like what you like, man.
No, I'm just saying, so I don't know. I continue to weep for the state of discourse of all forms of media, which we've talked about a lot on the show over the years. Mm-hmm. I tried to engage with as much of, without spoilers, I tried to engage with as much of the review and the content creator reviews, which are a very different thing as much as the fact is we are content creator reviewers, like I do think that we try to be critical, and I don't mean that in like the negative way. I mean that in like the way of like to do a criticism of like in like the literary sense, not in the judgmental sense. It took me a while to get through a substantial amount of the game, not because I wasn't enjoying it, just because like when it came out, like I was never able to give it more than like an hour at a time. So it took me like a week and a half to get like a substantial like chunk of the game done. Yeah. And so by then I had really seen a lot of stuff, and it was not unanimously bad. There was plenty of people who reviewed it well. I would say most of the people who were like actually do that for a job reviewed it in like the 7 to 8 range, which is fine and fair. There seemed to be a full court press by a lot of the, I will call it more the content space, about how this is the worst game ever.
Oh my God.
It took me about 10 or 15 hours to realize that most of those people didn't play more than 5. So I'm just going to say that the offensive was successful. The game did not sell the way that people thought it was going to.
Sure.
There was disappointment from EA and BioWare. There was layoffs there this week. They're still working on Mass Effect. And to be fair, they did offer a lot of people positions elsewhere in EA without just chopping off everyone. But they got rid of a lot of people. Some of them were pretty good people who've been around for a long time, which is a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very good, fun game. I enjoyed the shit out of my time playing it. I'm gonna play more of it. Once you play a 90-hour game, you kind of take a step back for a minute, and then I'm going to get back into it not terribly long from now.
Yeah.
Whether it be a month or 2 from now, whatever. Because it's not perfect. There are legitimate criticisms to be made about this game, and that was the problem I had, is it became pretty obvious that most of the things people were talking about were not the things that were actually wrong with this game.
Sure.
There was a lot of people blowing out of proportion things that are so small. It's like so like largely irrelevant to it. I can see the seams. There were things where they clearly either ran out of time or whatever, and like even some of the faction stuff where it's like there's I think 7 characters that are like part of like your team or whatever. There's only 6 actual factions, and 2 of them feel not like tacked on, but they just don't feel like essential. There's like a hierarchy where like 4 of the main characters with 4 of the factions feel really deeply essential to the story.
Okay.
And 2 feel kind of like they're there and they're fine, and there's stuff going on with them, one more than the other, but it's like you could have cut them out entirely if you wanted to. And there's one whole storyline with the character that's not directly tied to one of the factions that is like, this was definitely meant to be another faction, and they cut all of the stuff that wasn't story-centric out of it, which is fine. I mean, it's still a huge game with like a ton of stuff to do. I never felt bored. I never felt like I was being dragged back to it. I actively wanted to get back and do it. This is the of all the 4 games, which in a lot of ways, a lot of people are like, oh, this is the better role-playing experience in Mass Effect, and there's some truth to that. Mass Effect made a choice after the first one to go really action RPG specifically, in a way that this one stayed more towards the fantasy, which is truer to the RPG, with the exception of 2, actually. This is the first time I felt like you could really build like a unique character from like a gameplay perspective, where whatever you wanted to build, like there was multiple different paths to get to whatever was the thing that you felt was the most comfortable. Where like by the end of the game, I felt like I created a character that was like legitimately not only just like super fun to play, but like was actually like had synergies created that made like the gameplay loop like satisfying, and like I felt like a powerful character, not just in a generic like the stats are maxed out, but it was like the style that I play and the character itself, whichever one informed the other, like it didn't really matter. Like whether my play style informed how the character was built, or whether how I ended up building the character informed how I played, doesn't really matter. Like that all felt true and authentic in that way, in like a fun and like rewarding way, where it was like when I added points to whatever things, or when I like added skills and like perks and stuff like that, it felt like I was getting that loop, that feedback loop in a positive way, which I don't know I've ever felt it to that extent.
Gotcha.
In another game, which was like pretty cool to experience that in that way.
That's cool.
So,
Nice.
I just thought it was cool. I thought some of the storytelling was great. Some of it's not great. This is one of the more polished games that I can recall coming out in a long time. Not that I'm like the biggest gamer, but considering how many games have come out in the last decade, that is like, this game is basically broken when it came out, and sure, like a month later it was patched and it's fine then. Like, I never encountered a single thing that was an issue in this game.
Love that.
Right?
Love it. Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you enjoyed it, because I know you were looking forward to it for so long.
And for how many people, again, wrongfully were like, this doesn't respect this. Super deep expansion of the lore. Awesome stuff. Massive revelations around every corner. Awesome way. It will function effectively as an end to the story, which I suspect, unfortunately, it will end up being. But at the end, they left it clear that I think they could do one more.
Okay.
I think there would be an effective way to do one more story in this world.
So maybe it needs to simmer for a while, you're thinking? And then maybe
it's been 10 years since the last
revived
one.
Again. Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what the path forward is, because my guess is Mass Effect doesn't come out before the Q4 of 2027.
Sure.
So at that point, who knows? Because the whole studio, what's left of it, is working on that game.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where my true love is.
Of course.
And I'm rooting like hell for it. I'm just worried. What I'm really worried about is EA had their earnings call the other day. And one of the things that came out from it was they were like, we think that this game was really good, and we think that the people who played it really enjoyed it, but not as many people played it as we thought were going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Which all that's fair and accurate.
Yeah.
Because the people who actually played this game mostly feel the way I did.
Yeah.
I see it. You can see it online. There's people still talking about it on social media.
Yeah.
People who are still playing it. The people who actually played the game.
Right.
But to be fair, it didn't meet their sales expectations.
Yeah.
That's an irrefutable fact, right?
Yeah, it's just the nature of it.
But the thing
is the art part of it, it's also business.
Part of the issues with this game was early on they insisted it be like a games as a service. Eventually they allowed them to make a single player game, which is what they do.
Yep.
And that's part of why some of the things were not perfect within. That's fine.
Yeah.
But part of the earnings call was they were talking about how gamers want games as services, and that's why it didn't resonate. It's like, no, you're taking the wrong... No. 75% of their revenue comes from that now, I guess, is from what I heard recently. And it's like, great. But
make that thing to supplement this thing.
You have 15 other studios that can make those.
Yeah.
The point of owning this and Respawn is to let them do the other things. I do not need to teach executives at EA what diversifying a portfolio is. Or at least I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the game.
Okay.
Whether or not it's the best of the series, I don't know. I'm going to need more time.
Sure.
To determine that. I do think it's my favorite.
Cool. Yeah.
I would probably give it an 8 or an 8.5, somewhere around there.
Okay. Cool, man. That's awesome. Did you play anything else, or that's really it for gaming?
No, that's it. I've dabbled with some stuff since then, but it's like I didn't really want to commit to anything. The thing I actually would like to go back and do. I only ever played through Jedi Survivor one time.
Yeah, I'd like to New Game Plus that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great game.
Yeah.
I haven't picked up Indiana Jones since we last spoke. Not because I didn't like. I just haven't really had a chance to play actually sit down for an extended period of time to play something. I'd love to get back to that and finish that. I would eventually love to get back to Elden Ring because I was really enjoying that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the smaller bite-sized things that I've been doing, I've been playing some retro games.
Okay.
I've beaten Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers on the NES, which was just fantastic.
I remember that game.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I beat that. I beat Contra for the first time. I've never beaten Contra before.
The first one?
The first Contra.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm playing this game right now, on and off when I have the time to play it. I'm absolutely hooked. I'm blown away by this. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. It's called The Legend of Zelda. Have you ever played the original?
The very first one?
Yeah.
No.
It is incredible to me how excellent the game is. Like there's just like the way the secrets are layered into this map and finding things out, and like the discoverability. There's certain parts
this
of
was
that.
this was an NES.
Yeah, there's certain parts of it that are a little clunky. Like I got stuck for a really long time trying to just get my body to wherever the third dungeon is. It's like it takes there's a lot of space to explore, and it could be a little bit slow to like hit the edge of the screen, then slides in the next screen, and then and like I managed to get through. I was finding the fifth dungeon, the sixth dungeon. I could not find the third one for the life of me.
Okay.
Finally looked up which quadrant of the map it's actually on, and it just went there, and I was like, it was literally right there. I just happened to not make that turn in all this time I was exploring. That was the only really annoying thing that I found. But it's pretty crazy because I've played modern ones, and like not that long ago, I played through Ocarina of Time for the first time, like all the way through.
Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that. Yeah,
which was also incredible, and it's so crazy to see just how much of that DNA is present in the first time they did this. Right, and like how it's everything that every Zelda. I've played a lot of the modern Zelda games, and everything that's come since then, really like it has all of that in it, like as the core, and it stayed the core from the beginning, and it just works, and it's like really fun and interesting and surprising and like exciting when you unlock things. Like it's just so good. Like and like playing it via emulation with save states is just a game changer, because I don't have right now the time to discover and like game over and do it again. Like that's not where I'm at. But being able to just be like, okay, get so far, okay, cool. Now I know what I want to do next time. I just kind of click a button and reset, and I'm back to where I was, and I can just go through it the way that I want to. Has been like invaluable. And it's been really fun. I'm 6 dungeons in, and having a great time with it.
Awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where I know I've definitely mentioned it before. The only one I've actually played was one of the Game Boy ones. It was the Oracle of Seasons. That's the only one I've ever played. I really enjoyed it. I never finished it. I think I started it like twice. One time I probably made it like almost 3/4 of the way through. I don't remember why I didn't end up finishing it.
Yeah, it happens.
I enjoyed it. I don't know why I just never. I mean, the only Nintendo console I've ever owned, anyway, is GameCube. I don't remember. Was there even one that came out?
Wind Waker.
Was that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know why in my mind I thought that was an N64 game. I never owned the older consoles. I mean, we had a NES when I was like really young.
Yeah.
I don't know if it broke or we got rid of it or whatever. I don't know. We had a Wii, but I don't know, for whatever reason, that was just never a game that was like on my radar.
Yeah.
Like Link was a character in Smash Bros.
Sure.
Like I was aware of those games, but like it just was never. I don't know.
Yeah.
I even played part of one of the Metroid games, and like I never played that one. I don't know why.
Well, it's worth it if you ever get the time. Cool. Is that it for consumption?
Yeah, I think that's all I've really got.
All right. Well, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. A Real Pain, released in 2024, rated R, with a 1 hour and 30-minute runtime. Your IMDb synopsis. Mismatched cousins reunite for a tour through Poland to honor their beloved grandmother, but their old tensions resurface against the backdrop of their family history. Yes.
Yeah.
That is this movie. In fact, want to give us your Toot-length review?
A heartfelt dramedy about 2 cousins trying to access familial pain and heal while hijinks ensue. 7.5 out of 10.
Nice. An impossibly grounded portrayal of mental illness, its impact by proximity, and the lingering effects of generational trauma. 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I was very much into this.
Yeah, no, good movie. I remember watching the trailer. I remember us talking about the trailer. I don't remember that this was like so specifically going to be about like them going on a Holocaust.
Yeah, it's the same.
Was that part of the trailer at all?
I don't know.
I don't recall that being.
I don't remember. Yeah,
which is fine. I just remember I was like, wait, that's what this movie's about. I thought it was just them on like a backpacking,
right?
Which they are backpacking in Europe, but like
Absolutely.
I didn't realize how specifically targeted what their journey was about. It's a pilgrimage to their ancestral home, and again, against the backdrop of their grandmother fleeing the Holocaust and all that. So I have to be honest, I think things would have just been cleaner and simpler if the two of them just went to East Street Tavern, got 20% too much drunk, just hashed out everything, and it would have been fine. A couple hours, done. Yeah. Way cheaper.
It's so much cheaper.
Way less sharing with strangers the terrible fucked up family things. And now, to be fair, East Street Tavern doesn't have the birthplace of our family, but
that we know of.
No, I mean we know where our families came from.
Oh man, I thought about the 8th Street Tavern the other day. I was in Hoboken for a few hours, and I was like, I should just get away and go have a beer at the 8th Street Tavern. I mean, granted, it was like noon, and I wasn't going to do that, but we should do that one. I think one of these days we should just go to Arthur's, stop by the tavern. Steak. If the tavern's still there, good chance it's not.
That's one of those places that'll be there forever. Right?
You think so? I hope so.
I just hope steak. I hope that Irish guy is just there running that
just forever, right?
Forever, right?
Yeah, never ages. Just there.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a ghost.
Ideally,
maybe he's a ghost. I think ideally he's a ghost. This movie it's really well done because in a way that it's mostly a vibe. Like, I don't think that anything's necessarily resolved by the end. Maybe the cousins have a little bit, some deeper conversations.
Well, they're honest with each other finally.
Yeah. But I like the way that it ends as it started.
Just kind of. Well, I was a little concerned that it ends with him just back there sitting and people watching in the airport.
Yeah.
That's a little concerning, but
it's dark. Well, that's the thing, is these two are struggling.
Yeah.
And they're not, quote unquote, better by the end. They just know a little bit more.
Well, I think they understand each other.
To a degree. They
understand each other now because it feels like they stopped understanding each other years ago.
Sure.
Because the whole time they're talking about each other is all about the past.
Yeah.
Not about the present.
That's a good point. I'm really curious of the mechanics. Jesse Eisenberg wrote and directed this, right?
Yeah.
I'm very curious of the mechanics of directing a movie where you're also a co-lead.
I've also...
And how that even plays out.
Always wondered at that sort of thing. Because, I mean, this is one of those things where, we show how much we're outside of the business.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, in the credits, there are, first unit director, second unit director. There are, often, sub-directors in these sorts of movies who, George Lucas is shooting a new... Well, actually, it wouldn't even happen. Let's talk about Empire Strikes Back. I know he didn't direct it, right? But, the first director, or the actual director, whatever, with the Empire, was it Irving Kershner or whatever the fuck his name is? Might have been directing the Millennium Falcon sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And George Lucas might have been directing the Yoda and sequence.
Sure.
Those might have been shot on the same day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's someone who's sitting in the seat as Jesse Eisenberg talking it out or whatever, this and that. He's telling the other guy, hey, listen, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're trying to accomplish with it, right? And because then they go back and they circle around, they look at the dailies and all that and see if the stuff came out the way they wanted it to and see if they have to reshoot the scene or whatever, right? They take different takes of it, whatever. I know I've read and I've watched interviews about that sort of thing, but actors directing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they do a lot of the same stuff, but then they go in front of the camera and it's someone else who's there making sure everything is framed right, everything is whatever, they do the scene, and it's they've given direction to the quote unquote director of this scene, and hey, what you told me you wanted, this is what we got. Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down, type of thing. But it does seem complicated.
Yeah, and I guess maybe not to diminish it at all, maybe a little bit easier in the style that this is executed because for the most part,
it's just conversations.
It's conversations in a not a lot of block and go. It's just you're they're in a frame, not moving too far off from it. So you could pretty much establish what it is and B, directing like what emotions you're trying to get through and whatnot, like even in between takes that you're in, I guess.
It depends on the scene, right? Because there's some scenes where they purely wanted that vibe. There's some scenes where they're definitely hammering dialogue, and then there's like scenes where it's like there's clearly some improv, like the scene where they're taking the pictures with the statues. That had to have been heavily improvised, I'd assume.
Right.
That's probably a lot of fun to do.
Just
It also makes sense. There's probably like a dual focus to like, it does feel right for the character to like not engage, like Jesse Eisenberg's character to not engage. It also probably made it easier to direct that scene, standing there taking the pictures, quote unquote, right? Like just let them go have fun. Like it's like sensory overload for me to go over and do ridiculous shit with you guys while I'm trying to direct the scene,
Yeah. It's really cool. But even more so, like just like more power to you, like this, like just like kind of leveling the movie up even further, like the fact that write, direct, and star in this movie, like, and for it to pull it off the way that it's pulled off, like, really, just think it's really well done. The Kieran Culkin, my goodness, like,
it sounds like Eisenberg really actively courted, like he basically wanted to make him the star of the movie, which he did. He was nominated for not supporting actor, lead actor, which is funny because like in a lot of ways this is more his story, but it is all mostly told through the eyes of the Eisenberg character. It is kind of a weird duality in that way.
It is, but I really enjoyed that, like, because it seems that like the person that has like gone through all of the things that they're talking about, like, like he took all these pills and he was basically dead, like all this, like that happened to this one character, but by telling it through the lens of the other person, but you're getting it from this person that was like clearly impacted by this, like very heavily, who there's almost like a level of guilt to feeling impacted by it when it wasn't you that it had, like that it was. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Well, it's survivor's guilt without the death, right?
Yes.
Like, which kind of feels like a phantom limb in that way, right? Because it's you don't have the actual active thing to be grieving that you quote unquote survived.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel any less real because it's that near of a miss. It's not even like you're sitting in a diner and a bullet whizzed past his head, and it's like he survived, but he could have just as easily died because of his own agency and doing it to himself. Like the intention behind it,
right? It
feels almost as real as if he had succeeded.
Yeah,
right. Because it's like it's only by chance that he didn't.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, and like just it's like burying that, having that guilt, so you're never really processing that. And he's like, I mean, until he's in that scene, Jesse Eisenberg's character, was David?
I totally forgot their names.
Until he's in that scene, like at the dinner, when Benji is, just like really just being a total asshole, right? Like talking over people, like cutting people off. If he's not feeling something, it's just like all of you stop. Like this is not me, like he's like he's really a dick. And he's like burping, and then he leaves. He's just like, it's a really gross scene. And he leaves, and like it's David's moment to. There's almost like a freedom to talk to these people because he's never going to see them again. I feel like
it's super weird because it's in the middle of the trip. It's just like I'm going to see you guys like every minute for like the next day or two.
But
also then I'll never see you.
Right, but I guess like maybe like that probably like that freedom of the fact that I'm never going to see them again, and also like this is hitting a fever pitch for me right now because I am reeling from what's happening because I'm so frustrated because he's going through like in that moment, like I feel like throughout the movie David's going through the 7 stages of grief of this thing that happened like really quickly and over again.
Yeah,
and in that moment he is angry. Right.
And well, he's apologizing to them on his behalf, but I think it's almost like his own kind of penance for feeling like he wasn't there for him.
Right.
But
it's a guilt piece.
But even there, could he have been more attentive and reached out and this and that? Yes. But on the other hand, they also live 5 hours away from each other.
Right.
So like there's only so much guilt you can ascribe to yourself, right? Like he lives 5 hours away. He's got a career. He's got a wife and kid. Like, you know, he can't. Not that if he called him and was like, "Hey, I need you,"
right?
Like he would have probably dropped everything.
It seems that way, yeah.
But for him to be proactive beyond even like, "Hey, buddy, what's going on?" Like, it's how much more can you do from that distance?
Sure. And also, like, you know, we don't really explore it, but like, it's something that I found very interesting. Like David, like he brings up his responsibilities. He brings up his work and his family and his right. And there's a lot of kind of dismissing that from Benji's character. Like it's like, oh, like, you know, you're like your ad company and you're oh, so sorry, like your like your wife, like you're busy with your wife, like all, like there's a lot of dismissing that, but like there is as a father, there's a lot there, right? There's a lot that you can't really explain. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot weighing on you, and you can't really fully explain or express that to somebody who's not going through it.
Yeah,
especially at the moment that you're going through it, in the season of life that you're going through it in, and like. I feel like he shut off from even trying to explain it further because he knows it's not going to be received. And also he doesn't know how to express it. And then like, it's just like, well, you're like, David, your shit's not that important because like what I'm dealing with is bigger than that. Like, that's kind of like the vibe that kind of goes back and forth. And they air these things out, over the course of the movie, but it's just really portrayed well. Like, I feel like he captured something in the script of this movie that was just like, a lot of it like hit me, you know?
Well, especially I think that there was a real power in like pacing it out the way that he did, where we don't know about the suicide attempt until like halfway through the movie, right? You're introduced as like he's the black sheep. He's quirky Benji, you know. Right. Oh, he's quirky Benji, and he's serious and mature David, and X and Y and Z, and this is just how it is, and these are how these people are. And then you find out a little bit more and a little bit more, and it's like, okay. But there's also something to be said for like when you see Benji's perspective too, when he talks about, man, like he used to feel stuff, and like he doesn't even like he used to, you know, be expressive and vulnerable and all that, and now he's this robot, and it's like those are almost the types of things you would expect from the guy who did feel like he needed to go towards a suicide attempt, right? Like the robotic closing themselves off sort of stuff, but he's the one who's living and embracing and feeling to the maximum, like maybe even like hypersensitive to certain things. And of course it's a traumatic thing they're going through while they're there, and it's a triggering thing there, so you'd expect heightened senses being in that place on that pilgrimage, watching this sort of stuff. And you know, we see it when they actually go visit the concentration camp, you know, Benji just totally breaks down. And it's like, that's
that scene.
Even if he hadn't gone through what he'd gone through, it wouldn't have been like out of the ordinary for him to have the reaction he did. But then when you add on top of that how heightened he already probably is.
Yeah, but I think it's really interesting that you say that, because like even in that moment, right, when after the concentration camp, like even like seeing him be so impacted by it, David is still playing the straight and together role of like, you know, the like consoling, and you know, I'm also going through it too, man, but like trying to be there and trying to do what he has to do, right? Because there's something. What's interesting about their dynamic is that you have Benji, who is, you know, goes back and forth between manic and depression throughout the series of the sequences in the movie. And because he's bouncing all over and he is feeling to like 110%, there's no space for David.
Yeah.
Except to be on the straight and narrow, like analytical, like just getting through each thing logically, because there's no room for his emotion. Because
he's got to be the adult, right? He's got to be the one he's elected to do this trip with him. And so now he feels responsible for everything. He feels responsible for his bad behavior. He also feels responsible for, oh my God, is he going to try and kill himself again? Is he going to go off the deep end? Is he going to do something dramatic? You know, is he okay? Yeah. Am I okay? Is he okay with me being here? Considering there's this lingering sense of resentment that I wasn't there then, and this and that. Like, like he feels this paternal sense of I got to take care of him. Does he need to be taken care of?
Right.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. And like David, I feel like he keeps going. He keeps pushing everything down and keeps trying to power through it all and be that person, be like the logical one, like trying to figure it all out. But the intensity of what's going on, including with the intensity of the backdrop, he cracks here and there. Not a lot, but he cracks, right? Like the moment at the dinner table and where he's kind of airing their business, and like in the moments when he's finally talking to Benji about some of it, in like some of the quiet moments just on his face or his like frustrations, like he cracks, but he's always pushing it down and coming back to like trying to navigate through this because somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
And the buildup of pressure that's putting on him is palpable. And like I love the way that it all comes down. I love that they ultimately they do, like we said, like they ultimately communicate a little bit more and talk through a little bit more. There's a little bit more understanding, but they're still the same people. It's not an overnight type of fix. It's not really a fix. It's just an enhanced awareness, I feel like.
But you also have to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right. It can't get better until they have this meeting in the minds and they are finally honest with each other about what's been going on and have a starting point.
But until they're alone, when they break off from the trip and they find the grandmother's house and they can equalize and be feeling the same thing, I feel like they don't break down that wall until that moment, I feel like, right? Where they're like, hey, everything's reset and we've balanced for a moment so that we could be here together and like kind of recalibrate, like that we're like living like these parallel lives, like of going through the same things just in different ways. And I was just I just really loved that scene when they're in front of the door and they don't really know what to say. They don't really know what to do. They're like, we're here now. You want to put a rock out there? Like, should we put a rock? And they go find some nice rocks and they put them down there. And then like, it's just really funny because in that moment they're together and they're vibing. They're kind of feeling the same things. They're working through the same thing together. And then you have this neighbor who is kind of like breaking their balls about what they're doing, right? Which is it's just so funny because it's like that person has no context of what these people are going through. And you never really do have full context of what somebody's going through. And it's just the way that that's depicted is just so interesting. At least in that moment, the two of them have each other's support of like, okay, guy, what, like, it's fine. We'll move it. It's fine. It's like no big deal. But like they're having a moment and they can't have the moment because there's no room for them to have it because this other person is like being annoying about it. It's just really funny that they like the way that you kind of like move in and out of understanding and like alignment like throughout the movie. It's just like really the movie really hit me. It was just it was really well done.
That scene was a pretty great way to like actually culminate all of the main storyline. I appreciate it. Yeah, he's busting. It's a cranky old man. He's busting their balls in a different language. They don't understand him. He doesn't understand them. He brings out was it his son or his nephew? I forget.
Yeah, whatever.
And they explain it to him, and you can see he's just like, "What?"
Yeah.
But also he's like, "All right, I kind of get it. Like that's."
Yeah.
He says, "I think that's nice" or something like that. Like,
yeah. We understand.
Yeah.
What you're saying, why you're doing it,
but move the rocks.
But an old lady lives there and she can get hurt. Can you move the rocks? Oh man. I have this thing. My anxiety can go through the roof when I watch certain scenes in movies and TV. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. At the cemetery, when Benji is just a complete asshole to the tour guide.
Yeah,
right. And like to the point where like my shirt was over my head. I was watching it through the fabrics of my shirt. I was so uncomfortable because it was just so horrible the way that he was speaking to. And what's annoying is
there was a way to have that conversation.
Good message.
Yeah.
Bad delivery. Right?
There was a way to have that conversation, and we know that because by the end, he actually says, like, thank you for being the first person to ever, like, in any way, shape, or form, critique what we're doing.
Right.
Like, give me constructive criticism. Now, the worst possible way to do it, but, like,
absolutely.
Like, there was a way to have that conversation. He didn't come close to it. He wasn't in the area code.
And then Benji pretending like he didn't even really remember the interaction.
Well, that was...
And David,
honestly,
you
weird.
could see David was battling Khan, and he was like, flames. Like, he's like, I'm sorry, are you thanking him right now? I thought we bonded for a moment when I was like, I'm sorry, my cousin's a total dick.
Yeah.
And he's like, now you're just like, thank you?
He's like, not only are you gaslighting me, I think you're gaslighting yourself.
Yeah. That guy was from White Lotus.
Oh, I never saw it.
Oh, you didn't watch that? For some reason, I thought you did.
No. I think... I want to say Gianna's seen at least one of the seasons, but I have not.
Goodness, Al. You got to watch White Lotus. Season 3 is coming out.
It is. We were talking
Get
about it
in there. It's so... Al,
Anthony,
it's
so many
so
shows.
good. No.
Listen, football season ends this week.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. It's this Sunday.
Great. It's over. Watch White Lotus.
I have less than a month to watch, like, some of these Oscar movies.
After that.
I still have a season and a half of What We Do in the Shadows.
Me too.
I still have so many other shows.
No, you got to watch White Lotus.
I got games. I got movies.
You would love it. You'd love it. It's so ridiculous.
I might.
Oh, you'd love it.
No, I mean I've heard good things. I've heard very good things.
Anyway, back to the moments of Benji's freakouts on the trip, like we've got the like he just like his delivery is so blunt, but like not in an endearing way. like it's like he's just like he comes across as an asshole because he has no control. He like clearly is. He has an issue and he has no control over these things and apparently doesn't remember sometimes when he's doing it, which is really
I don't,
or he's just like pretending not to.
I think that like that scene where he's like saying at the end with the tour guide,
yeah,
I think it was more of a downplaying. I don't think he actually didn't remember.
Yeah, which would, I mean, has to be accurate because oh my god.
So like
intensity. He
had this blow up a few times. The one that interested me the most, I guess, was the train one because I think that was the one that I actually can kind of sympathize with him the most.
Agreed. That was which was cool that they did that though, right? Like the fact that it's like they do it a couple times, and instead of it just always being like, "Oh my god, here he goes again," being ridiculous, you're like, "This one I kind of get." But for some reason, that one was the one that they seemed to reject the most.
Yes, and because it seems on the surface. It seems the most trivial, and like I understand why the older guys like, well, we're on the train, like what do we supposed to do about it?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like it also requires the least of them. It just literally requires them to like, let's have a moment to reflect on this.
Sure.
Like they didn't have to be dramatic and like, you know, make a big scene and like, oh well, we're gonna grovel and we're gonna go sit and like whatever. Like just like have a moment of appreciation for where you are in that. You know, versus where you could have been, and like with the connect to what the actual like relevance of this thing that we're doing is, right? Like it required the least sacrifice to just engage with what he's talking about, but it also like because of that feels like it's the lowest stakes things. But I also understand the most why he's like where it feels like we're not just on this, we're doing this happy-go-lucky thing, right? Like if they had that same train ride after going to the concentration camp, I think they would have been more receptive and somber in that way, right? Like they hadn't had it real in their face yet. And like that's probably why there's some more like resistance to it, where there's this like cognitive dissonance of what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, there's the psychological aspect of it too, is where they all felt attacked.
Yeah.
Right? Like so maybe that's why they're the most rejecting of it in that, like for that, right? It's just
I'm sure it's a piece of it too.
It's like there's well, like everything in that, there's lots of layers. I feel like to all of the things that they're exploring. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of nuance to this. There's like I said, there's like all these pieces of it. I don't know how you write this. I don't know how you capture all of these things because they all feel they all feel very real and very well done.
Yeah.
And like, that's like a perfect combination of like strong writing, directing, and performances, against an incredible backdrop. So great production design. Like it's just incredibly well done.
Yeah. Yeah, for a debut,
Yeah.
it's pretty polished in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also, I think you picked the spots, right? Like, there's a lot of this is pretty stripped down and like Spartan like design and even just like like there's a lot of scenes where there's not really much going on, or it's just dialogue, and the dialogue could end up falling flat, and then those scenes don't work. But he didn't have that happen really. Um,
Yeah.
it was it's an interesting project to tackle in that way, and I thought he did a pretty damn good job. Yeah, part of it maybe is that allows him to do that is like I think they shot like the whole thing basically in Poland. Like if you saw a lot of the credits were for like Polish stuff, so maybe the production costs are so much lower and allows you to be a little bit more adventurous with some of those things. But yeah, no, it was a cool, interesting way to tackle this. I wouldn't have thought that this would have been the sort of thing that you start with. I mean, it's easier because
Sure.
the budget is easier to come by.
Yeah.
But this sort of like indie, like artsy, like thing for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, you know. And listen, there's favors and friendships. You know, I don't know what his relationship with Kieran Culkin was before this, but like they even got you add a little bit of legitimacy. They like Jennifer Grey is in this movie. Like she's like the only other like named actress like in this.
Right.
Yeah, most of the rest of the cast is not household names.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of personal what must be personal experience worked into the execution of this, because it all feels so real.
I wonder if a movie like this, if it's if you kind of survey the rest of your family, it cobbles together everyone's thoughts and opinions and musings and experiences and histories. Like we talk about the older generations, like what if this is kind of not just a passion project of him specifically, but kind of like the collective work of his family almost.
Interesting. I would like to know that. I would like to know more.
Because I also wonder how a 30-something-year-old guy in this current time like writes this movie. Like this is almost we've gotten far enough away from the events. I mean, that's 80 years ago.
Yeah.
That how many people are left in this world who remember that? And even the people who remember their grandmother or their mother coming out of those circumstances. There's even a lot of, I mean, sure, like there's plenty of 60-year-olds who heard the stories, but
yeah,
we're getting closer to the time where we're going to have a lot less first and even secondhand accounts of those events. So for someone who was at this point now like third generation from there to write that story, it's got to be fewer and farther between as we continue to go along, right? There's something to be said for that.
For sure. Man.
Like that's a movie you could have. I mean, look at like Steven Spielberg doing Schindler's List, right? Like this is almost like a movie that like Steven Spielberg could have written 40 years ago.
Sure.
I mean, I know like he did like blockbuster stuff mostly, or like that sort of person at that time.
Yep.
Like you just don't necessarily expect that type of movie to be made now by someone of that generation.
Yeah. Man, well done. What else do you have on this?
No, I mean I think we tackled a lot of it. I mean, like there are sections of this movie where it's just you just got to live in the moment of it, and it's. I mean, neither of us is Jewish; we don't have access to that directly, right? But like, it's a testament to the movie that you can just sit and sink in and contemplate what they're thinking through and what's going on there, and trying to access that from an empathy perspective. But my kind of closing thought is I don't know if he has continued designs as a filmmaker, but I'd be curious to see another project he decides to tackle.
I would be watching closely to hear any news on that.
We'll be watching your career with great interest.
with great, for sure. Well, thank you for watching this one. This was a last minute choice, but I had seen it and I thought it would be of interest to you.
Well, when the trailer came out, I said as well I wanted to see this movie. So
Yeah. Well, that's all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthe6@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Biolsi.
Thanks for coming out.